Four categorized climbs up the Col de Bluffy into Tonne, Côte de Saint-Jean-de-Sixt, and then two huge first category climbs that will decide what we think will be an attacking and an aggressive race. Through the feed zone at Vougy, through Cluse, and we uphill again to Col de Rome. Not too much of a rest. Col de la Colombière saw all the action with Alberto Contador, Lance Armstrong and the rest in 2009 before a finish in Le Grand Bernard. It's La Course 2018. Gone is the experimental two-Dane mountain stage. Gone is the factored pursuit TT format. Back on the mountains and back on the cream of the crop straight off the women's Giro d'Italia. It was a very early start, the sun just about rising in beautiful Annecy as the flag was waved with some of the top riders on the planet ready to contest for La Course glory. Not too many other one-day races on a parcours like this. It's a unique event, La Course. It may have its teething troubles, but it's certainly bringing us spectacular images already with 64 kilometers to go and a 41-second gap for a group of, we think, 5 riders that have gone up the road, but the situation's changing all the time. Now FDJ have been active. They've got a couple of very good riders to support Shara Gillow, and with 64 kilometers to go, it's a very good time to say a very good morning to Jo Rousselshand.
Good morning, thank you for having me.
Wonderful to have you along, and it looks as though the racing is blowing up before our very eyes as we've seen it. One bit of big news, pardon me, to bring you already is that Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, the multidiscipline superstar from France, riding for Canyon SRAM, has abandoned La Course. We had a bit of a crash early on in the very first 2 kilometers. A lot of racing that was quite cagey, but now you can see it's breaking up, and we're heading up to the first of our 2 big first categorized climbs. And whatever happens here in the valley, it's the climbs where they're really going to have to test themselves today. It
is, but now's the point to get an attack in. If you know you're not the best climber in the race, I think we all know Annemiek van Vleuten is the best climber. She just won the Giro by over 4 minutes, which is incredible. We know Anna van der Breggen is coming in with fresh legs, a bit of a sort of question mark how well she's going to go, but everyone else knows they're not the best climber. They know they're not going to win the bike race just by sitting there and waiting for the hills. So it's tempting to wait and follow, it's tempting to wait and see how you can go, but teams will have an agenda to get people up the road, to make it aggressive, try and dictate the race and not let Mitchelton Scott just have it all their own way, otherwise they're going to just walk this.
Well, Mitchelton Scott, we're hearing have lost a rider from the main group because Janelle Crooks, the Australian wearing number 3 on her back, we heard on race radio that she was seen just out the back of the peloton when that last attack went. This was the attack that went from the rider from FDJ. FDJ who remain FDJ, whether it's the men's World Tour team has gone to Groupama as their main sponsor. This is the chase group. Now there's a rider here from Wild Eels, the Dutch team in the green. Behind we've got a rider from Movistar, the Spanish team. Movistar became the 6th World Tour team to put on a women's World Tour team. We heard yesterday that there's a 7th. Trek Segafredo are going to launch a new team, and with your mate Lizzie Deignan as the leader. Yeah,
it's brilliant news. It's great for women's cycling to have another big sponsor wanting to invest in a team like that, and it's obviously got everyone talking, so yeah, very exciting.
This is the 5-rider attack we saw at the front. It's a strong group as well. Anna Christian's there with British presence in the black jersey there, wearing 173. 163 on your screen is the Polish champion Małgorzata Jasinska, involved as well. 155 is Leah Thomas from the United States and United Healthcare. She's wearing the blue jersey, but look at that for a presence. A huge name rider in Lotta Lepistö, who is a superstar from Finland, rides for Savella Bigla.
She is a superstar, and yeah, she's best known as a sprinter, but she's won some hilly bike races. So it's very interesting that she's in the break. Savella Bigla have got a very strong contender here of Ashley Moolman-Pasio, so to have someone of that stature in the break, it's interesting they've let her get away. But yeah, Ashley Moolman-Pasio definitely the big name that's going to be wanting to really make a mark on this bike race.
2 sprinters really in that group, because Leah Kickman is there as well, the Canadian who rode this race last year, who said she enjoyed racing in the mountains but realised that it wasn't her terrain. And of course, as we see often in mountain stages and bike races, it's interesting for riders behind who are maybe going to have some help when it gets to the mountains later on. And I think Lepistö, you're right, ready to do a good job for not only her leader, we think, who is Ashley Moorman, but there's also Cecilie Uttrup in that team as well, who's done a lot of training at altitude this year in Switzerland. One thing to note is that Shara Gillow was the rider making her move from FDJ, and that's an early move for one of the favourites of the race.
It is. It's very interesting that she's gone that early. Perhaps she either saw a good opportunity, or perhaps she's not feeling so confident that she's going to be able to stay on the Mickleton Scott train on the big climbs. If she can get to the other group, that is actually quite a good group of riders to work with. So perhaps she's thinking, well, I've missed this opportunity, I need to try and get myself across now. But, you know, now's the time where she needs to dig deep and make that gap. Otherwise, if she's in no man's land, that's really not going to help her at all. So she needs to make that jump across to that front group.
World champion there, Chantal Black, with number 11 on her back, riding for a very strong, as ever, strong Boels Dolmans team, who are led by Anna van der Breggen and Megan Guarnier. Interesting that in the peloton now, things seem to have calmed down now those moves have gone.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said before, I think now is the time when you need to try and make some moves, because you can't just wait till the big climbs. And I think we had a flurry of attacks there, people trying to get across to that front rider group, but now things have calmed down a little bit, and I think that is maybe Christy Majerus on the front for Boels Dolmans. Yeah, we can see a few Boels Dolmans riders there, just sort of policing the peloton now. They're all going to calm down a little bit and wait for the next big showdown.
Well, they've got a very good team to work for their couple of leaders, really. You saw the world champion in there. There's Caroline Canuel as well from Canada, Amy Peters, the Dutch woman, and you saw Christina Majerus, who is, of course, the Luxembourg champion, right at the front of the peloton. And you can see the way the gap is growing rather quickly, that it is not quite a sitting up, but just controlling things. There's a long way to go until we start our next big climb. That is the Col de Rome, up to 1,200 metres above sea level. The next big climbs are the first category climbs, and we're talking big gradients. The Col de Rome is 9 kilometres long at 9%, and that will start with around 37, 38 kilometres to go. We've still got just under 60 k's to go. We've got the feed zone to come first, and you can see, well, they've let the gap go up to 1 minute and 28. I'm getting so excited that the race is kicking off in front. As we see Anna Christian just losing contact there with the front four riders. But yeah, 1 minute 38, and they've started to ride now because they were stronger.
Yeah, these gaps all over the place here. These girls need to get together or give up, really. It's not good being in no man's land as ones or twos. If they can all work together, that is a good gap they'll have over the bunch. But yeah, not ideal to be in ones and twos like this at this stage, considering it is quite flat as well. But yeah, Anna Christian, not sure if she's had a mechanical issue or what, but I hope she does get back to those front few riders there.
Anna Christian riding for the Trek Drops British team from the second division of cycling. From the Isle of Man, from a good cycling family, Anna Christian. As Majerus still pulls things on this descent. A beautiful area of the Alps today. Heading towards Le Grand Bornand. We're back with the rest of the race right after this. You're watching live coverage of La Course by Le Tour de France 2018. It's the 5th edition of the race, a one-day race again this year. 20 teams, 112 riders, and these are the 4 riders at the front of the race. 1 minute and 39 is their gap over the peloton, but we've got 3 or 4 groups in between with some very big names up the road. 2 first category climbs to go today before a descent into Le Grand Bornand. And this is Lepiste, Kirkman, Thomas and Jasinska. Anna Christian is the rider chasing on behind. We've also got Shara Gillow, one of the favourites for FDJ, also a few seconds behind. She was 20 seconds at the last count. And this is the state of the groups. Movistar riding a really aggressive race today because they've got 2 riders up the road, 1 in the front group, 1 in group 3, and they've also got a rider on the front of the group. Now, the rider on the front of the group, what's she doing here? Does she want to slow this chase down? Because it'd be strange if she were helping Boels Dolmans try and chase her mates.
Well, yeah, exactly. Maybe she's trying to get up there in case anyone else tries to bridge across. Maybe she's trying to mess things up a little bit for Boels Dolmans, so we've got a few riders up there. It is interesting. They sort of seem to be playing a lot of cars very early on, don't they? And obviously it is still, we've got the big climbs to come. Because you see a rider from Wiggle High 5 there at the back. But yeah, I was quite intrigued by Movistar's tactics, but we'll see how it unfolds for them.
Well, they've got Eder Merino riding for them, who was very good in the very recent Giro d'Italia. She's a Spanish national road race champion, a Basque rider who finished top 10 at the Giro. Well, I have to say that Movistar, without one of the best jerseys in the peloton, they put a brilliant French tricolour together for Aude Bianic, who's the brand new national champion. Movistar not known for putting good national champions jerseys on the road, and in the men's section they've tended to hide and just have a few bands in the middle of the jersey. But it's a great jersey. It's such a shame it's not on the road today for Aude Bianic. She's not one of the 6 riders selected, but as we said, we think they're going with Eder Merino for their last card to play from the peloton. This is Leah Kirkman in the white and black of Sunweb. They didn't have too bad a Giro d'Italia either. They won the team time trial at the start, picked up another stage as well. They briefly had Ellen van Dijk in the jersey at the start, in the pink jersey. But the Giro d'Italia, we must talk about it. It's the only Grand Tour of the year. We're going to put pressure on here on ASO and say we want a French Grand Tour as well. We want a Tour de France.
Oh, definitely.
But in the Giro d'Italia, it was dominated by one team, Mitchelton Scott. 10 stages, 6 of them were won by Mitchelton. They took 3 jerseys away. The winner, Annemiek van Vleuten, took 3 stages on the way. She won on the mighty Monte Zoncolan, so just like in the men's Giro d'Italia, the winner on Monte Zoncolan was the winner of the Giro. And we think, if we're talking about the favourites today, they're the headline names, Van Vleuten and Spratt from that team. Yeah,
incredibly strong team. Only 5 riders here today, though. Obviously, off the back of the Giro, there's going to be a lot of tired legs. And just with one, can't even call it a rest day, one travel day, one transfer day between finishing on Sunday and coming and racing here first thing this morning. But yeah, Amanda Spratt, we should mention her, 3rd overall at the Giro, first Australian rider on the podium for 24 years, I believe. So that was awesome. And Annemiek van Vleuten, like we say, is so dominant. She's had an incredible season last year, incredible season this year, especially after her crash in Rio, which was obviously horrible. It's been amazing how well she's been going and how dominant she's been. And I mean, I'm looking forward to Worlds as well. Worlds is a very hilly course this year, and the 2 big names are Annemiek van Vleuten and Anna van der Breggen, both Dutch. So what's going to happen there is very interesting, but it's good to see them racing on different teams this year, because it does make the racing more exciting for us as viewing to see what unfolds.
This is Maya Sten at the front. Look at the back of the group, and yeah, they've started the chase now, but the rhythm isn't as high as it was at the start. No. 1 minute and 55, pardon me.
Yeah, it's the gap's gone up a lot. Boels Dolmans have got a few riders, probably 3 riders at the front there. They're just controlling the pace. They know it's a bit early to really put the pressure on and really bring them back. It's probably working for them having a bit of a breakaway, and hope they don't really want anyone else to keep jumping across. They're probably trying to keep a bit of a pace up so that no one else gets across and makes an even bigger group. But yeah, it's a bit too early to really put the pressure on. But I always think, as a rider, when you know the gap's getting like this, it's going to get very hard at some point. When they do put the hammer down, they do start reeling them back in. It's never quite fun when you're in the peloton thinking, oh god, this is going to get tough in a bit.
And we've got some huge climbs today, by the way. 2,500 metres of climbing over 112 kilometres. We're on our way to Col de Rome, which starts in about, just under 20 kilometres time.
Yep.
And at the minute they're heading to the feed zone. This is in the valley. This is the calm before the storm, after an early bit of climbing up the Col de Bluffy and then the Côte de Saint-Jean-de-Sixt. 4th and 2nd category climbs respectively. We're talking 9 kilometres at 9%, and then another climb of 7.5 kilometres at 8.5% before a 14k descent to the finish. So once you're over the climb, it's not done and dusted. And when you were talking with Jonathan at the studio at the start today, it was really interesting to hear from Lucinda Brandt. She's a strong climber, but she's not the mountain goat that, you know, the likes of Van Vleuten are, or maybe even looking at Merino, the Spanish rider we mentioned. Small, skinny, with less to carry up the hill. Brandt is much more of a powerhouse who can climb, and she already talked about possible tactics. Descent and looking where you can make the gains or even catch up at the end, and we could be in for a really big chase if the gap isn't too big over the final climb.
We could. I mean, everyone always knows you can get big time gaps on hills, but you can get big time gaps on descents as well. You know, the difference in skills of individual riders will be huge, and at that point, when you're that knackered as well, a tiny mistake can obviously cost you hugely. So you need to be safe and riding well, but you can make a big difference on a descent. You know, the bike race isn't over. I mean, I do love watching mountaintop finishes, but a 14k descent, things can change in that time. Things can definitely change, and Lucinda Brandt, there's been a few people talking about her. She has got a strong team with Team Sunweb. They do always ride very professionally, very well together. It is always a pleasure to watch them. Had a dominant performance at the Women's Tour a few weeks ago as well, with Corinne Rivera winning, and I do like watching them race, and you can already tell she's thinking this is a possibility here. It's not a straightforward hill climb like it was last year. More opportunities.
Well, a very different stage, and the gap is going up to 2 minutes. Mayurus is the workhorse today. I see the world champion slotting into third place there. Champion is Chantal Black, and well, looking forward to the Worlds. You said it was a hilly Worlds. That might be an understatement. It's a mountainous Worlds this year, and Netherlands have such a strong team again.
They really, really do. So many contenders, and it was so good to see Chantal Black in the jersey this year. She was such a worthy winner last year. Not the name everyone was mentioning, but that made it even better to see her win that bike race.
15 seconds for Anna Christian, almost 2 minutes for the peloton. 50k's to go. Leah Kirkman from Canada on the front of the peloton, as we see one rider dropping back from the break, we think maybe to the peloton. That's Rianne Marcus, yes, dropping back from that attack that we saw. So it sounds as though a couple of the groups inside in the middle that were sort of caught in no man's land, as you said, have either decided to sit up or try and push on, and it's changing because the gap now is growing. If the gap becomes too big to make to the front group, then you're wasting energy if you can't get there.
Exactly. You need to commit one way or the other. So if it's not going to work out, if you're not going to get across, then it's better just sitting up. It's great doing heroics and staying out there for a long time, but you're not going to win the bike race. You're not helping your team. So yeah, if you can't make it across, better to do the sensible thing: sit up, get yourself back in the bunch, and wait for another opportunity. And I think we've got the full Bulls Dolmans team on the front here. That's Amy Peters there, Chantal Black, Christine Majerus, and I'm going to guess it's going to be Anna van der Breggen sat at the back of this train, showing their intentions very early on. And I mean, it's obviously Anna van der Breggen is a huge name, but I would probably be looking more to Mickelton and Scott to do a bit more work because they have got the favourites. But yeah, they've got the whole team lined up there, making their intentions very clear. One
thing I would say is there aren't many Mitchelton Scott riders in that peloton. We heard early on about Janelle Crooks dropping back. That would leave them with 4 riders. As we see Rianne Marcus, another rider, right, Anna Christian, who's from a really good cycling family over in Netherlands, riding for Wild Eels. And she was with Shara Gillow. Interesting to note if she has dropped back as well.
I think there was the Movistar rider she was with as well. There was the 3 of them all trying to make it across, and we don't know quite what happened to Anna Christian either. So we'll see. Well, who's got themselves together?
We've got the camera shot all right. We knew that already, but thanks for letting us know, Mr. Cameraman. Behind, you could see Majerus. And she was already taking turns, so committing 3 riders, it seemed already, because we had Black riding, Peters riding as well. And as you say, full commitment to control this gap. But the thing is, it is being controlled and not chased at the minute, because it's still going out, 2:10 now.
Yeah, well, the break will be riding hard. The break will be thinking we need to get this opportunity to make as much ground as we can, to get as big a gap as we can. And you can see these girls are working hard together. You can see that they're working well. It's a nice sized group to have 4 girls. Too big, it doesn't always work so well. Too little, there's not enough people to shelter behind. So 4 seems a nice group. All from strong teams, so it's all quite interesting. We haven't talked about Katie Hall from United Healthcare.
Winner of the Tour of California, I think?
Yes, a very strong climber. And here's our chasers, Shara Gillow, Anna Christian. Got themselves together now, but how far are they behind the front 4?
Well, interesting that Shara Gillow did continue with that move. And she has Anna Christian for company, as you said. 46.5 kilometres to go. We're approaching the feed zone now, by the way. That comes in 2K's time. And it's well, it's not quite lunchtime yet, is it? Some brunch. And then the final 2 climbs. It would have been a very
early start for these guys. Probably will feel like lunchtime with a start, with a sort of 9 a.m. rollout.
That is interesting, because it was a 9 a.m. rollout. And in your experience in racing, what sort of time will the alarm clocks have been going this morning?
Well, you'd normally say breakfast 3 hours before the start. But I reckon a lot of people, especially those having done this year, would have thought, forget that, I'm going to have breakfast a little bit later. But yeah, not a normal bike race, I'd go for my breakfast 3 hours before. But do I really want an alarm starting with a 5? Probably don't. So yeah, probably would have gone a little bit later. But it is still an early start to be racing. But you don't like to complain about that too much as a rider. It's good to have 2 races on the same day with the men and the women, and the women are sort of used to that. They often get the earlier start. But yeah, early alarm is never much fun, especially after a 10-day stage race.
We saw Sarah Roy, though. It's probably the only rouleur left, or rouleuse, probably I should say, for Mitchelton Scott in that group. Maybe just edging to the front, wondering if she was going to think of starting to contribute. In the meantime, Anna Christian and Shara Gillow waiting for a time gap to them. 1 minute 15 we're hearing on race radio, so that's still quite a gap, and it's gone out again. And you wonder for Gillow, what does she do here? Because she has a decision to make, and fairly quickly, because we've got the first climb coming.
That is very much no man's land. Yeah, 1:15 behind the break. Though you could also say it as over a minute ahead of the peloton. So do you want to sacrifice your minute 5 seconds she's got gained over the bunch? That could be useful. That gives her a bit of a head start essentially on the climbs. Perhaps there's someone else in the team. They want to have someone up there. So yeah, decision to make.
Nicolas Maire, the sports director for Française des Jeux, probably has a job to do now. This is interesting. This is very interesting because we're seeing a chase begin, not just to control him, because Trek drops with one rider on the radio. They're starting to think about contributing, probably after the latest gap to Anna Christian came in, and probably a realism setting in the team con, saying, well, she's not going to get to the front here with her mate who she's chasing on. And you just saw Sarah Roy, the rider I was talking about, the Australian from Mitchelton Scott, also popping her head very close to that train with the Bulls Dolmans rider. So we might be about to see a bit of a change at the front of the group. Yeah,
we might. And like we said before, Mitchelton Scott, the strongest team by far at the Giro, but a smaller team here, and obviously going to be some tired legs. And it's interesting how that they've not been setting the pace yet, and well done to them, because it could have been the whole peloton looked at them, but they've obviously thought, no, that's not what we're here to do today. We want to win the back, we don't want to control it for the whole 100 and whatever. So they're letting Bulls do that. So bold move by them to be able to sit back and let other people dictate the race for a bit.
And we see that in the classics, because it's usually Bulls Dolmans who everybody looks to in the classics, because they're a classics team. And sometimes I say, well, hang on a minute, we've won enough bike races already this year.
Yeah.
If we miss out this weekend, it's not the worst thing in the world. They're bluffing, of course, when they say that.
Yeah. Oh, it's
they're
all mind games. Yeah. Love a bit of mind games. It makes it more interesting, doesn't it? But yeah, it is like we say, early commitment from Bulls, and a very, very strong statement there to have all their riders lined up like that. And it is very early, but they're not chasing properly. They're just controlling the bunch. And 2:21 is a big gap, but that's not big when you're in proper mountains like that. That will come tumbling down. It's more interesting the teams that have got riders up there. Oh, now we've got
Ale Cipollini
on the front.
Italian team who come with just 4 riders here. Sheila Poromilla. Anna Santesteban is probably their best climber. Anna Trevisi is their Italian rider. Karlijn Swinkels rides for them as well, from Netherlands, and the Lithuanian Daiva Ragazinskena. Back a couple of the Wild Deals riders having a chat. No Marianne Vos, by the way, today. Any of you wanted to see cycling's world superstar, the biggest cannibal since Eddy Merckx on the road, not taking part? But for those of you wondering how she's getting on at the minute, European champion, well, she took a stage win in the Giro d'Italia towards the end.
She did have a stage win at the Giro. Not here today. I mean, to be honest, I probably wouldn't have put her down as a favourite today. Having said that, very class descender. So with it being a 14k to the finish after the last climb, always potentially, you've got to be in it to win it, but obviously not a target fair this year anyway. No. And there's plenty of other big bike races to worry about.
But of course, being what it is in terms of advertising for women's cycling, we know that she's not a favourite here. She's not a pure climber, but it would have been nice to have her on the start line, I think.
It would have been nice. She is a big name. She attracts a lot of fans. She gets everyone talking, and she's a pleasure to watch race. She is so strong. The way she attacks, the jump that she has when she gets away, it's scary. It's awesome. But yeah, no Marianne Vos today, but plenty of other big names for us to talk about.
Time's coming up. We're going to take another commercial break before we get there. You're looking at the second group on the road here. Just 2 riders. Anna Christian at the front in the Trek Drops jersey, the black and the rainbow coloured. One of the classiest jerseys in the whole of cycling, I think.
Oh, I love it, yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. But sitting on behind her, from FDJ Nouvelle Aquitaine Futuroscope, to give them their full name, bit of a mouthful.
I'll let you pronounce that one.
I think we'll stick with FDJ.
Yeah.
And that was Shara Giller. I haven't seen her take a turn.
No, and like we said, you're in no man's land. You need to make a decision. At the moment, her decision seems to be to follow Anna rather than sit up, because like I said before, if she sits up, she's already got over a minute over the peloton. They are a long way back, so why not sort of maintain that advantage? But if you're working, you're sort of hanging yourself out to dry a little bit. So yeah, she's sitting on Anna. I'm interested what happened to Anna Christian, because she was in that front group, like we said, and we can see a few of the Trek Drop riders moving their way to the front now, so they probably heard that she's not quite in that front group anymore, and they've got some decisions to make as well as a team as to what they're going to do now. But also a few Sunweb riders on the right, 3 of them getting together now on the front as well.
Yeah, Floortje Mackay is the second wheel there. She's had a bit of a breakthrough season as well, after 2 or 3 years of talking about her as a real talent, somebody who could win a sackload of races. But she's been very, very good this year, and Sunweb professional outfit, very, very good team. There we think riding for Lucinda Brandt.
Yeah, that could be very interesting. It's always interesting, like you say, as a rider that's up and coming and then everyone bigs you up. It all takes one little result and then people talk you up a lot. Then anything you do that isn't as good as what they say is sort of seen as maybe not a failure, but not living up to expectations. And it's difficult as a rider to sort of manage that, whether it's media attention or expectation from teams or sponsors or managers. But you need to sort of focus on yourself and focus on your own development, do the races that are right for you, and it will come. And it's good to see riders flourish that people have perhaps talked up maybe a bit too soon, but flourishing now is good.
Sabrina Stultins, a former Team Sunweb rider, now in the green of Wild Eels, just sitting up in the middle of the bunch there. They've got a strong team as well with Anouska Costa, the former Dutch champion. Rihanna Marcus, we've seen. Danny Rowe.
Yeah, Danny Rowe's had an awesome season this year. Medal at the Commonwealth Games in Australia back in April. Really good ride at Tour de Yorkshire, really good ride at Women's Tour. She said in an interview earlier that she's not a goat, she's not a mountain goat. She's a very strong climber, Danny, and perhaps I know she's here to work for a teammate, but she's, you know, if she's working on the front, it's a bit different. But if she's following moves, it's hard to get rid of Danny. You know, she can follow very well. She can dig very deep, and it's very impressive how she can do that. And I'm looking forward to see how she goes out of interest, really. But I know she has stated that she isn't the team leader today.
It's interesting how long riders hang on and how deep they go here as well. Because in contrast to the Tour de France Stage 10 we're going to see later today, riders don't have to be in any time limit.
Exactly.
Riders don't have to necessarily finish. Riders here have no tomorrow to think about. They have got to leave it all on the road.
Yeah, I like that. No tomorrow. Nothing to lose. So yeah, you can turn yourself inside out, whether it is, you know, for your teammate or for yourself. There is no tomorrow to worry about. And having done a 10-day trade like the Giro, one sort of transfer day to come and ride this, you know, finish it off. You know, go out in style, go big, and then probably enjoy some rest after this.
Interesting that two of the teams who have riders in the breakaway have now started to ride on the front of the bunch.
I know, yes.
United Healthcare, they're joining Team Sunweb, and it didn't look like they were hanging about. You know, you sometimes, as we mentioned before, you get a rider or two coming to the front, trying to disrupt the chase a bit, be a little naughty. But those two riders in the blue jerseys of United Healthcare, the team from the USA, were riding seriously and chasing down Leah Thomas.
Yeah, well, you can see the peloton is strung out. It's pretty much, well, not quite all single file, but they are stringing out. I mean, that's riding properly. And I'd say their team leader is Katie Hall, winner of Tour of California this year, and she is a very exciting rider to watch with these sort of climbs. But I don't know if I would be committing to the chase this early when, you know, you'd normally use the opportunity that you've got a teammate in the break to sit up and to let another team do the chasing, i.e. Bowles-Dolmans is the obvious one here. But perhaps they were thinking Bowles weren't making enough inroads into it. Perhaps they were thinking Bowles is soft tapping a bit here. We need to do a bit more work. We want our rider to win this bike race. So very interesting tactics.
The race is about to get a lot more interesting anyway. 39 kilometres to go, and in around 2 kilometres time we'll begin the first climb of the day. The first climb, a serious climb of the day. We've had two already. We've got two first cats that are going to decide the race, we think. The first climb is the Col de Rome. Col de Rome, which is almost 10 kilometres long, and it averages 8.9%. It's a serious climb. The hardest parts of this climb are at the start. The first 2 kilometres, an average of over 10%.
Ouch. That's tough. When you hit that, we're going to see a lot of sore legs exposed at that point. So yeah, that is going to be very tough.
And this might be what we're seeing here behind, actually, because you can see Canyon SRAM coming to the front on the left-hand side. That's Trixie Warrack up there, the former German champion. And I think now this is the race into the bottom of the climb and positioning.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, positioning is so key. If you're at the back of the bunch, if you're behind riders getting dropped, you're making it harder for yourself. Equally, if you're not the world's best climber, get yourself up the front and you've got loads of sliding room. So that is obviously by far the best position to be in. And yeah, we can see that riders are thinking, let's get our team leader in the best possible position. And, you know, it doesn't seem ideal for the breakaway riders because the gap is coming down a bit. But like we say, the hardest part of the climb is early on. And if you get stuck behind someone then, or if you lose a gap, lose a few wheels, that's a lot of work to do to make up, especially when we've got over 9% gradients. That's not so fun.
And a gap of less than 2 minutes is nothing with two first category climbs to go. That's going to disappear in the click of a finger.
Yeah, it is. And normally, I think in a sort of other bike race, you might think, wow, that's a big gap to break. That's a lot of hard work to bring that back. But like we say, in the mountains, the time gaps are always going to be huge. And we've got two big climbs so close together, not much of a descent in the middle to really speak of. It is a lot of climbing, a lot at that plus, we're talking about average of 8.9%, but a lot over 9% going towards 10% gradient is tough. And here we go.
Climb to start, it's the Col de Rome, 8.8 kilometers long, 8.9% of a gradient. La course proper starts here. Into the mountains we go, and it was Małgorzata Jasinska, the experienced 34-year-old, two-time Polish champion, riding for Movistar, driving a break of 4 riders up the road, who won 1 minute and 50 seconds ahead of a hungry-looking peloton, because we've got two first-category climbs, one right after the other, that are going to decide this 5th edition of La Course by Le Tour de France. Mitchell and Scott are slowly starting to get interested. Remember, we have that group of 2 riders in the middle as well, with Anna Christian and Shara Gillow, and Shara Gillow, 4th last year, 16th at the Giro, a very, very good climber, the Australian.
Yeah, she is. So we can see the bunch is all strung out now. Riders at the back are already working hard. These riders will be cursing, thinking, oh God, we've not even hit the climb yet, and I'm already suffering. This is not the position you want to be in. But the girls that have got themselves to the front, the teams that have got organised, got their climber up there, they'll be having a lot easier ride at the moment. They won't get that concertina effect out of each roundabout, out of each corner. So yeah, a lot easier for them at the front. These girls are riding hard into this climb. This is going to be interesting how this climb's ridden, because they're going to hit this very hard, and like we say, 2 of them back to back, very, very tough.
Trixie Worrack has been doing a big turn here. It's now the turn of her teammate Elena Cecchini. Elena Cecchini, the former Italian champion for Canyon SRAM, working extremely hard, and they have Katarzyna Niewiadoma, a superstar on the bike, to try and do things for their team. Remember, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot abandoned.
Yeah, Cassie Niewiadoma definitely the one to look at from that team, and interesting to see how hard they were working into that climb, because like we say, this is tough, these gradients. Already a lot of people suffering, and there's 2 riders coming back now.
It's the 3rd climb of the day, it's the first serious one, and this is where La Course is splitting up. We're getting reports of several riders dropped off the back, and this is visual confirmation. 168 there is Lourdes Oyarbide. 51, Sabrina Stultin's in trouble already. The rider from Lotto Soudal is number 146, that's Kelly van den Steen from Belgium. And at the break, we've already had our first casualty, Lotte Lepisteur. No surprise really, Joe, that she's the first to be dropped.
Yeah, she can climb well, but she is known more of as a sprinter, and she's really there as to represent Cervelo Bigla for probably the 2 bigger name, or the 2 more favourites from the team, Ashley Moorman-Pasio and Cecilia Ludwig. They're the 2 riders people will be talking about today. So it's good that she was representing in the break. It let them rest and recover in the peloton. No stress to be chasing anybody down. But yeah, really job done for her now. And it's great to see her in that break. It's great to see a big name like that being up there. But yeah, it's a long way to the finish now.
This is Leah Thomas in the blue jersey for United Healthcare at the front striking. It looks as though Jasinska's having trouble following the wheel. That's Kirkman, the Canadian in the white and black, who feels that she's a little stronger than Jasinska.
Yeah, this is interesting. United Healthcare. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Katie Hall goes. Like we say, very, very good climber. At the moment, these girls, it's difficult when you're in a break like this and you're riding up a climb. There's not as much advantage of being on a wheel as there is obviously on the flat. But you've got to sort of just get yourself up, and if you can focus on that wheel in front and follow that and let that pace you, that will help a lot. Equally, if your legs are just saying no, there's no point trying to cling onto that wheel. You need to ride within yourself just a little bit, stay just sort of under your threshold, stay within your limits, and it's a long way. You do need to pace it, and currently we can see that the United Healthcare rider does seem to be the strongest, but Leah Kirkman not letting her go completely.
Leah Kirkman riding fairly cleverly, it looked like. She was waiting for that gap to open up and then sped herself into it.
Yep.
Now she's seen that Małgorzata Jasinska definitively, I think, can't follow the wheel. They're on 10% gradient, so it's no wonder.
Yeah, and as the gradient levels off a bit further up, you might see some riders a little bit better on the slightly shallower gradients. So for me as a rider, I'd struggle if it went really steep, but then I might be able to sort of grind my way back to people as it levelled off a little bit. So you've got to sort of ride your own climb bit to this extent, especially at this point, especially as it's the first one of the two. Look after yourself a little bit as well.
Talking of this climb, we said it had a very hard beginning with an over 10% average for the first 2 kilometres. I can tell you that halfway, after 4 kilometres, you've got the easiest of the kilometres, and that's a 6% between kilometres 4 and 5. So that's the only respite,
It's so
really.
easy. Yeah. I'll be looking forward to that little bit of respite, but yeah, not a great deal there at all, is it?
Well, those riders who've done the work on the flat for Bulls Dolmans out the back, no surprise to see the world champion among them. Very, very good on hilly terrain, but this is proper mountain stuff now. And Chantal Black, the Nederlander, has been dropped, as has the national champion of Luxembourg, Christina Meijers. Problems for a couple of riders from Corgès Mettler Pro Cycling. That was Maria Novoldskaya being dropped at the front. They have Edwige Pittel, the French rider, to look out for. Interesting you were talking about United Healthcare as well, because their star, Katie Hall, has only ridden one day race all season. That was a national championships in the United States.
Yeah.
She came 12th there, but in stage racing, she has cleaned up. She won the Joe Martin stage race in April. Later that month, she took the Tour of the Gila, also general classification, before the Tour of California that she won as well. So 3 stage race starts at the start of the year,
Yep.
3 general classification victories, then the Nationals, a 12th place, and then a top 10 at the Czech Tour de Femina, which took place just a couple of weeks ago. So in good form, I think it's safe to say, this season, the 31-year-old.
Definitely in good form, but obviously the majority of her racing there has been in the US, which is a little bit different. Never personally raced in the US myself, but obviously heard a lot about it. And of course it's different to racing on the European roads. The roads are different, there's different riders in the peloton, the racing just does unfold differently. So it's good she has come over to Europe and raced that race in the Czech Republic. And this is obviously going to be a big target for her because it is so mountainous and because it is such high profile. But yeah, a rider that is more used to racing the US scene, definitely.
Leah Kirkman has blown. Runner-up on the flat edition of La Course on the Champs-Élysées in 2014. First edition, won by Marianne Vos.
Leah Thomas looks perfectly within herself there. She's riding nicely, nice tempo. Obviously it's very hard, but she's not really turning the screw quite yet either. So this could be a very, very exciting race for the United Healthcare team.
Oh dear, this is not the Shara Gillow we know.
No.
Maybe she just wasn't feeling so good today, and that's why she was in the breakaway.
Yeah, exactly. If you're not got good legs, you can put your hands up and say to your team, look, today's not going to be my day. What can I do to help someone else? And perhaps the answer to that is, go early doors, go and make a breakaway, get the team sponsors out there, let some other teams do some chasing. And every day can't be your day. I think I was told quite early on in my cycling career that you can't win them all, and you are going to lose more than you win, which is sort of hard to take. You sort of want to win everything. Of course, you don't want to line up knowing you're going to lose. You're always in it to win it, but you do have to accept it's not always going to be your day. Sometimes it is a case of doing a job for a teammate, accepting that, and then moving on to the next target.
Last shot at the back there with the Cypriot national champion Christoforou being dropped, as Le Piste is retaken by the peloton, and our first sighting of Annemiek van Vleuten and Amanda Spratt close to the front.
Yes, very, very interested to see how this unfolds. Great to see some riders from Trek Drop still up there. We've now not really got a team controlling it anymore because people haven't got the numbers. And Boels Dolmans, obviously, we saw all 6 of them lined up before with Anna van der Breggen at the back. But now she's looking pretty isolated. I can't see any other teammates there, I don't think. I would have liked to have seen Megan Guarnier there, but perhaps she's not there
She's
either.
a good climber, Megan Guarnier,
Yes,
the winner
yeah,
of the World Tour and the inaugural World Tour a couple of years ago.
Yes, yeah.
And she's won races overall before. A nice little view of the peloton we had there, and it was the Giro podium.
Yes.
Spratt, Van Vleuten and Moolman Pasio all together, watching each other already like hawks.
Yeah, and showing that you can keep racing. They've done a 10-day stage race, had a, I don't want to say resting, I'm going to say transfer day, and they're racing against it's basically like day 11, and I think that's what we're all expecting. The big elephant in the room is Anna van der Breggen, the fresh legs, done a bit of mountain biking, not been on the road bike so much. Is she going to come in and dominate this with the fresh legs, or is she a little bit, not quite tuned into the road at the moment? So that's the big showdown. But I'm interested, can anyone else upset that? Lucinda Brown we talked about, we don't want it just to be those top 3, everyone looking at them. So we'll see.
We're into the final 35 kilometres of La Course by le Tour de France 2018. Spanish champion we talked about earlier, Merino on the left-hand side, who hails from the Basque Country. Her teammate in that group left is Lorena Llamas Garcia. She's struggling at the back to hold the wheel here, 1:64. 16 there, still in at the back is Anna van der Breggen, just hanging around at the back of the group.
Yeah, she doesn't need to do anything yet. You know, she can sit there, she can wait. Everyone's talking about her, everyone knows how Palmar is. No one's looking at her to dictate the race at the moment, and she's happy to let everyone else set the pace. People are going to get dropped behind her, the race is going to whittle down, and then the second big climb, the second first category climb, will probably be where she'll be making a move, I would guess. But at the moment, no stress, just follow, just relax. Don't need to be dictating it quite yet.
Olympic champion, as we see Ashley Moolman up there as well, former South African champion. And number one, Annemiek van Vleuten, skin suited up and ready.
Yeah, I do like the move to racing in skin suits as well. That I remember when that sort of first came in.
Well, you're from the track, you will do.
Yeah, of course. It might have been Rob Hales, I think, raced the national road race in a skin suit once. Everyone was like, what the hell? And then you think about it, actually, very, very sensible. Why is it not done more? So yeah, obviously we see so much development in the technology and the kit. You know, it's not all about the bikes; it's about the kit as well. You know, the rider's the biggest thing hitting the wind. So yeah, a lot more science going into it now, definitely.
Rob says he was shouted down to high heaven in the peloton that day when he turned up. He was laughed at, but it's the rest who are laughing now because everybody's wearing them.
Yeah, well, he won the nationals in it as well, national road race champion, and we were teammates that year. We're both in the same team, obviously men's team and women's team. So yeah, that was a good little day out. He's
here today as well.
Oh, excellent.
Working for BBC. Here's Leah Thomas. Still only 7 seconds ahead of Kirkman, 41 on Jasinska, who's rapidly making her way back to the peloton. But talking of the peloton, this is the favourites group now. It's no longer the peloton.
Yes.
And we're talking 15 to 20 riders max.
Yes, yeah, not a huge amount of riders here. A variety of different teams. It is pretty much every team's climber. Which, you know, leaves riders isolated. And there are, you know, like we said, a couple of Mickelton Scott riders, but in general, no one's got the numbers to dictate. No one's got the numbers to really be setting the pace. A couple of B-Pink riders. But yeah, no one team on the front dominating this. And I did wonder how long Boels Dommers would be able to be up the front like that. But I think we saw everyone sort of use up their domestics into that first climb. They thought, we know we're not going to stay with the favourites here. Let's get our rider into a good position. Let's work hard now while we can, drop them off. And job done, really. Long way to the finish, but if that's all you can do as a domestic, then you know, do your job properly and be done with it. And yeah, it's going to be a big showdown between these girls coming up now.
This is Jasinska, the Polish champion. 4 victories in her career. We see the Israeli rider on the back there, Omer Shapira. Brody Chapman as well, the Australian, on the right hand side. 81 for Alessi Polini is Ana Santesteban, Spanish rider. One of the top climbers, and she's the only rider left from Alessi Polini. Only brought 4 riders to the race, the Italian team.
Yeah, so you need 4 riders to start, but obviously you can have 6 maximum. You want to be starting with 6, but at this stage of the season, there's obviously going to be illnesses, injuries, things happen, and especially just after a big race like the Giro Rosa. People will be struggling for numbers a little bit, so it's a shame not to see quite every team being full. But it is quite normal. I've been in plenty of teams over the years where you end up with 4 of you on the start and you think, you know what, well, we haven't got a big team, but that means the job's, it's not up to us to dictate the race. So, you know, we can follow. No one should be looking at us to do much. So it does perhaps open up your opportunities to hide a little bit more sometimes.
9% gradient. Great ride this from Leah Thomas.
She's looking good, and of course this is great for Katie Hall to have a rider up there. Like we're saying, not many people have got teammates in that group, but she is going to. If she can ride within herself and not empty the tank, once the peloton catch her, she'll be a good asset there. She has been out a long time, you know, she has been working hard, but if she can still ride just within herself a little bit on this climb, not go too deep, it is brilliant to have an extra teammate there in New Jersey.
5 kilometres to go. We're almost halfway through. And that means that we're approaching the easier section of the climb.
Yeah.
This is the peloton. You talked about Katie Hall, sits there in 3rd wheel. Blue jersey of UHC on her back. Number 6 is Amanda Spratt. 2nd last year. Annemiek van Vleuten was 3rd. Pardon me, 2nd in the World Tour rankings, I should say.
We've got 2 Movistar riders as well, with 1 about to be caught. So that will actually be 3 of them, which is very interesting. We've seen them active throughout the morning so far. which is paying off. They're going to have 3 riders in this group. If this rider that gets caught now, she can stay with them, even just for a little bit, that's always good for morale to have an extra teammate there.
Taylor Wiles of Trek Drops, an outsider to look out there with 171 on her back. The rider setting the pace at the minute is number 124, the Czech rider from B-Pink, and that's Nikola Noskova. They have Silvia Valsecchi in their team, but no real other big favourites. 10% still a difficult gradient, about to get a little easier. 33 kilometres to go, and the gap to the breakaway down at 1 minute and 12. It looks as though we might have had a move from the group.
Yes, someone's obviously feeling good and got good legs and thought, we're halfway up this climb, let's see what I can do.
And that move at the front is done for one of the Movistar riders, Lorena Llamas, out the back. That was a white jersey that went up the road. I'm just wondering if it was one of the riders from Cervelo. Let's have a check. This is interesting. And it looks as though it's Cecilie Uttrup. Cecilie Uttrup Ludwig, the Danish star rider who gets a little agitated when she's not racing. She said, in her own words, I'm a race machine.
Yes.
I prefer racing to training, but when she did train recently, she went to an altitude camp in Switzerland, thoroughly enjoyed it, riding in the mountains. She said that it was actually hard to train there because it was so beautiful. She found herself stopping to take too many pictures.
Oh, I'm guilty of that as well myself. But yes, Cecilia Ludwig, very exciting young rider. She's someone, again, that's been talked about a lot over the last couple of seasons, and like I said before, it is dangerous to big someone up too much, but a huge asset to Ashley Moorman-Passio here. Good finish overall at the Giro, and exciting to have 2 of them in this group and see what they can now do.
Annemiek van Vleuten there, how's she getting on? There's a little chat with Amanda Spratt.
Yeah.
How do we approach this? How do we react? That's the question.
Brilliant for them to have the 2 of them there. But yeah, amazing ride here by Cecilie.
Well, Cecilie Uttrup. There's so much good Danish talent. We were saying that the other day when we've had riders up the Tour de France. We've had Søren Kragh in the white jersey. It's just an endless production line of talent in Denmark at the moment. And Cecilie Uttrup, 6 at the Giro d'Italia. One of those proving that point, and she's already 45 seconds behind, a good 20 seconds out of the group already, who we still can't see.
Yeah, she's got a big gap very quickly here. This is a very, very impressive ride. So perhaps the team have said to her, this first climb, see that as your finish line, go big now. And this is incredibly strong. She is committing here. She is giving it not perhaps everything, but a lot. And yeah, like you said, we can't even, I think maybe just about see that group.
Well, Uttrup moving up through the different groups that will be on the road, coming back from the original breakaway. We know the rider at the front of the race, 52 seconds ahead at the moment, is Leah Thomas, who's putting in a fantastic ride, the 29-year-old from the United States. But this is the move we're concentrating on, and this could be ready to set up Ashley Moorman further up the climb.
Yeah, it could be, and if it is, very exciting tactics from the Cervelo Bigla team. We've talked about them having 2 riders that are exciting on this sort of course. We've actually got a second Boels-Dolmans rider there in this group now. That's interesting.
Megan Guarnier, the rider who we were looking for before.
Yeah, she's
who
there.
we expected to be there, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she is there. So that's good. That's good for Anna van der Breggen. It's good that there's got 2 of them. It is unusual to see Boels riders quite so isolated as just one of them. But yeah, 2 of them there now.
Medina working up on the right-hand side. She still has Margarita Garcia with her. And they're the time gaps. 5 seconds from Thomas de Kirkman, who looks to be fighting back.
Yep.
Uttrup at 34, 58 to the peloton from the front. I say the peloton, it's the favourites group.
Yeah,
that's where we think the win's going to come from.
Yes, yeah, it is. Yeah, it's obviously quite a diminished group now on this sort of climb. But yeah, she's brought out a good sort of 25 seconds, very, very quickly there. Leah Kirkman, Leah Thomas, they're just a little bit apart. They're not quite joining up, are they? But like I say, sometimes riding at your own pace on a climb like this is actually easier rather than just trying to cling onto someone's wheel that's perhaps going a little bit not at the same pace as you want to go. So perhaps it's a smart move by the Sunway rider to just ease back a little bit, give herself a little bit of breathing space. But there we can see Cecilie in the background. She's going to have these riders in her sights very, very soon. Going
like an absolute train at the moment. Now then, Jasinska, who suffered in the breakaways, now suffering out the back of the favourites group, and rather like Le Pisto early on, bigger rider who's much more set for the flat terrain, fast finishes. She's done her job today, and Interesting, we mentioned the pista and the tactics early on. It's been clear from Cervelo Bigla from the start. Put a rider in the breakaway, send a rider on the attack, and Moolman Pasio, second at the Giro d'Italia, is already waiting to try and get a revenge on Annemiek van Vleuten.
She is. This is very exciting, and it is brilliant tactics to see them using up riders like this, using up big name riders as well that, you know, we all know and we've all seen win bike races in the past. So very, very exciting for Ashley. I hope they haven't played their cards too early and shown their intentions quite too early, but I mean, of course they've got big intentions. It's a big bike race, and you know, we know how good at climbing Ashley is, and we know how much she you know, values the exposure that you get from a race like this, and it is important when you've got the TV coverage to put on a good show, and we do want to see more of it, so it is very exciting.
Interesting looking at this group. Nivea Doma is the only rider from Canyon SRAM left. Rider at the front for Trek Drops is Taylor Wiles from the USA. Here's another American. Also in that group, by the way, was one rider left for Sunweb, and it looked to be Lucinda Brand.
Cecily, a big gap over that peloton now, just 25 seconds down on Leah Thomas at the front. She will have them in sight, and she'll be drawing them in gradually, and that's a brilliant carrot to have, to just be able to chase that and just gradually wind your way up there.
It's a big day for the spectators on the Col de Rome today. 2 races to see, plenty of groups as there's carnage in the mountains. The first of those races passing up here, La Course by le Tour de France, has been explosive so far. I can tell you we are faster than the fastest time schedule. It has been a very, very quick race thus far, and these are the favourites. And you can see Ashley Moolman in there. 2 riders for Boels Dolmans, 2 riders for Mitchelton Scott. Their main riders, their favourites. 2 for Movistar as well. Kasia Nivea Doma in there too. And Sunweb, who do have Lucinda Brand on the right hand side. This is the lead of the race. Leah Thomas, faster rider. Had a good time last week in the Tour de Femina in the Czech Republic, taking the overall general classification, in fact. But of course, that 2.2 race, so officially she's still waiting for her first proper big pro win.
Yeah, I mean, that's still a decent win. I still take that. And like I say, the riders that are based in America, it is different coming to Europe. You know, very, very different roads, very, very different style of racing. So yeah, very, very impressive by her. And we've seen Cecile now go past Leah Kirkman. So yeah, she's now second on the road.
Leah Kirkman now looking like she's sitting up. Time to take a drink. And she'll perhaps be trying to give one maybe final turn when she gets back to the group, if she's got anything left for Lucinda Brand. However, you also think that Lucinda Brand, we've already heard about her tactic. Hang on, hang on, hang on. And if she loses time over the top, try and be aggressive on the descent.
She's got 14k to turn things around, which I think is what is exciting about this course. It is... it's not a massively long descent, it's enough time to really change the order of things, isn't it?
Now, a little bit of an acceleration at the front there from Taylor Wiles. All the bigger favourites, though, hanging in there towards the back. 1 minute and 9, 1 minute and 8. There's no worry about this gap whatsoever yet, is there? There's still a lot of climbing to come.
Oh, exactly. There's still a lot of climbing to come. It's interesting to see the United Healthcare rider now on the front. That team is managed by Rachel Hill, former British pro, and I always love to see them watch them race. Rachel was one of my teammates back very far back in the day, and it's great to see her in a team management role now as well. And it is interesting to see how their tactics unfold. Like I say, more used to racing in the USA. But yeah, it's some big names in this group that I'm still thinking I'm not quite sure which way it's going to go. You know, we've all talked about Annemiek so much, but no one's going to just roll over and let that happen.
Riders dropping out the back, left, right, and centre. Thomas then. So 31 kilometres to go. Thomas still at the front, and Cecily Uttrup has made a big move here. Delighted to be joined in the commentary box by Molly Weaver. Can you join the race so far after, what was it? It must have been a Nigel Mansell-style drive from the start.
Oh yeah, it's a big trip, and also difficult to negotiate the race and cutting through it, but it looks like it's been a really, really exciting edition. I like that the teams have really attacked this. Like Joe was saying, no one's going to roll over and just let the pure climbers take this, so they're really attacking the race. I think that's an element that we've not seen in the previous editions.
In terms of the tactics, it looks as though a couple of teams really have planned things and have been aggressive. We've been talking about Cervelo Bigler. They had a rider in the breakaway, and Lotte Lepista, okay, not suited to the mountains, but she can do a job on the road. Aggressive, and you can see now that, let's say, the second in command, Cecily Uttrup Ludwig, 6 in the Giro, is trying to set things up for Ashley Moorman.
Yeah, I think you can see that's a really clever tactic. Put someone in the break, then you don't have to chase, and it takes the pressure off. Then actually Ludwig herself, she'll take this opportunity. She's a very confident rider. She's full of racing. She's really tactically aware. She'll take this as a big opportunity personally, but also now for Ashley that sets her up, brilliantly.
That's Pauline Royakkers from Netherlands and Wild Eels.
I think she's the last of them to be in that group. A shame, actually. A shame to see Sabrina drop out the back. I was surprised.
She went early, didn't she?
I think it shows that some of the riders maybe haven't come off the Giro as well as they'd hope. It's difficult to judge that one, I think.
A former teammate of yours at Sunweb as well.
Yeah, and a brilliant rider, one of those wonderful, wonderful riders to ride for. You really put all like your passion behind it, because she was such a great person. She really appreciated it, and a brilliant personality. She also lacks a bit of confidence though, so I'm not sure if maybe the doubt of the Giro and La Course double maybe crept in a little bit and played a part in that, but that is a shame to see for that team.
And it is one of the big factors in this race today, the Giro and La Course double.
Yeah.
A lot of people saying, well, this is stage 11. But stage 11, cramped in the back of a car for 8 hours, isn't the ideal prep, is it?
Yeah, and I think it's also the element of some of them haven't done both. So it's a weird thing. Some of them it's stage 11 of a Grand Tour, others it's stage 1 of a one-day race. So I think that's also a bit of an unknown for a lot of them. So they've had to also tactically put that into play. How are we going to play off the weakness that the other riders might be feeling?
Okay, Sunweb Insider. Leah Kirkman has been up the road in the breakaway, strong sprinter who can climb well. We'll go back to that in a minute, because it looks as though Cecily Uttrup is making the catch here. Leah Thomas has ridden really, really well. She's still got a good job. Now with this gap, what happens? Does she sit on, save energy over the top and go again?
I think it really depends in the moment how you feel. I don't expect her to sit on her for long. You might take a breath, like you can already see her going past.
And still 2 kilometres from the top. It's a long way to sit on and maybe give up a bit of an advantage, isn't it?
Yeah, I think if she feels like she needed the break, she would have sat on for a minute. But you've also got to remember, it's only 9%, but still the slipstream value isn't that high.
We've got movement behind, and it's Mitchell and Scott finally making their move.
Moorman following.
And Moorman is following straight away. Van Vleuten sits behind. This is Amanda Spratt on the right-hand side having a go.
There was Katie Hall showing real strength here, She's a bit of a wild card, not really been mentioned, but a fresh team and a fantastic climb. She's taking up a lot of the workload here.
And 3 stage race starts in America this year. 3 stage race wins. Very impressive. Not too much one-day racing, as we said, but this is a one-day race with a difference. I mean, a huge stage in the mountains.
You can see Megan Garnier there as well, doing a job for Van der Breggen.
Oh, and that's put Grace Brown in trouble for Wiggle High Five. They're not having the best time of it at all, on or off the bike. Big news with the Spanish champion being dropped. Top 10 at the Giro d'Italia, and Ada Marino is gone.
That is a surprise. I think also, again, don't know how she's going to back up the Giro performance as well.
We're into the final 30 kilometres of La Course, and it's all kicking off.
Oh, and Megan Garnier has actually taken that break up, and they're using that to their advantage.
Well, Megan Garnier, who also has a rider behind another Van der Breggen, Giro d'Italia winner 2017, one of the big favourites for this race, but she's hardly ridden on the road recently, as we see Kickman of Canada and Sunweb. Goodbye.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. You could see she was on the limit for that whole climb, and I think once the accelerations go past you, you've got no chance.
A really good ride.
Oh, but Lucinda Brand's also being detached there.
And that's
a little
bad
bit.
news for the team, because Brand was hoping to hold on, and hold on. It's not a huge surprise given the fact that the accelerations have started. We know she's not a pure climber, and her tactic was to hold on as much as possible. She's got to within 1.5 kilometres of the top of the first climb. Yeah,
and I think it's also a bit of new territory for her. She's only just broken into sort of the climbing side of things. She really changed herself around as a rider this Giro, so she'll also be feeling her way through it, how to conserve your energy and not blow.
This is the front of the race now, and Cecilia Uttrup Ludwig has left behind Leah Thomas, who we think in terms of the front of the race, will no longer be a factor now.
It looks like she's suffering quite a lot now, so it looks a bit seamless as she pulled away. There's a bit of concern as she's gone a little bit too deep in the initial attack.
Well, she'd want to be leaving something behind to try and give something for her leader. If she can get over the top of this climb now, there's a 6 or 7 kilometre descent, and then we start the mighty Col de la Colombière.
It's always a really difficult one. You have to put enough effort into to get a gap, but then you also have to manage that effort to not keep that power, because you can't sustain that effort the whole way. But like you say, if she can get over the top of this, she gets a little bit of respite, and that can be enough to get something back.
Helping her make the race for Cervelo Bigla. Again, another little bit of an acceleration as she's into the hairpin. She's holding nothing back here.
No.
11%, and no wonder. There's Thomas in the blue jersey. United Healthcare, racing on European roads, the team from the United States. Great to see so many people out already as well. And it's going to be a great atmosphere throughout the day on these two climbs. 33 seconds you can see from the top left of your screen there, and Uttrup back to, what have we got left? 10 riders.
Yeah.
Anna van der Breggen hanging on at the back there. This is Guarnier, former United States champion, at the front. Alongside her, Kasia Niewiadoma on the left-hand side, Van Vleuten as well, skin-suited up. And Taylor Wiles still in the group as well.
Yeah, she looks to be riding strong today, actually. She's a good climber, but normally it's a time trial effort, and actually these are probably a gradient that suits her well.
She's actually driving the pace again. She's been at the front, and as you say, she's used to setting her own pace, and maybe that's a more comfortable place for her to be.
I think she needs more of a consistent effort, so she would probably be prepared to take up a little bit of the work to stop the accelerations and the attacks.
And we saw that earlier on in the climb. Here's Uttrup with 1 kilometre to go now to the top of it. The last kilometre of this climb, by the way, 7.5%, so the second easiest kilometre of the 9 we've had, if 7.5 can be considered anywhere near easy, certainly at race pace. Brund is back on and hanging on to that group. That's good news for somewhere.
You can see she wants to manage her effort well, and I think she's doing a good job of it. She's not panicking, she's controlling her effort. And
with Wiles' pace setting here on this 10% gradient, deterring any attacks for the minute, and in inverted commas, it's calmed down a little bit from what we saw a moment ago.
I think also they'll know with the descent coming up, maybe save it now for the next climb, because you're probably not going to get a good enough gap to hold that through that period of the race.
We're still on just about the fastest time schedule that there is. About 45 to 50 minutes. We expect to know the winner of La Course 2018. And it's been an aggressive race.
I think Moolman will be taking a lot of confidence from this. Always, if your plan comes together to perfection, you can ride the wave of that feeling a bit. So she'll be feeling confident in that group, I think.
Second at the Giro d'Italia, 4 minutes 12 down after the 10 stages to Annemiek van Vleuten. A very good second place overall for the South African, based in Girona in Catalonia, and here she is on the right hand side looking around. Looks as though she was looking for maybe a soigneur at the top.
Yeah.
Just pointing that she wasn't attacking, she was coming over to the right hand side. And well, yeah, you'd expected bidons and maybe a bit of food to be handed out up here. There it is, just shove something in her pocket. And it's straight out for some energy. They wait to see their heroes, and here's one of them. Uttrup looking around. I've already mentioned that she's much more of a fan of racing than training.
She's just one of those riders who's just full of self-belief as well. So she would take this attack, and then there'd be no doubt in her mind that she could do this, which is something that you definitely need at this late stage of the race to make a move like this.
She's done 39 race days already this year. She raced the classics. She had top 10s in some of them as well. Very good in Valencia at the start of the year in a top 5 GC. 6th overall at the Giro d'Italia. In a race that doesn't suit her characteristics as much in the Tour of Britain. She was 17th as well. She's had a very, very good season so far. 3 wins in her career for the 22-year-old.
She was the breakout rider really of 2017 in the young riders. She moved to Cervelo Bigla, and she's been really impressive actually.
And she's already taken a big step to becoming the Queen of the Mountains.
Yeah.
Top points on this first category climb. Not too much wind out there as well. Still very warm day out in the Alps today. Started in Annecy. If you're just joining us, we're on our way to Le Grand Bornand today. 112.5 kilometres. Kicking the maddest points too for Leah Thomas, but look what's coming behind.
That looks like it's closed down quite a lot now. I mean, Leah Thomas will know she's going to be absorbed.
Good ride from Margarita Garcia on the right hand side. 16 still very comfortable at the back, Anna van der Breggen. But how are her legs? One-day focus this year, all about the World Championships, we think.
Yeah, I think she missed out on the Giro purely to focus on that, so you've got to ask yourself, has she then focused on training for this, or is she going to train through it and then it's a bit more of an unknown? I think we can't be sure either way.
Having been on, and I know Team Sunweb now is strictly a German team, but it has been a Dutch team, having been around a lot of the Dutch riders, how are they going to manage that at the World Championships? Everybody wants to win, and almost everybody can win.
Yeah, I think it is difficult. It's difficult for national selection, but also in the race, obviously you've got individual egos and aspirations mixed in there, but they do commit 100% to each other. It's a very structured nation in terms of how they race as well. Being on a Dutch team, it's very clear who a leader is. So I think they'll manage it well.
At the top of the first climb, we're headed for the second. We're off for a quick commercial break. Do not go away. You're watching quite a unique bike race. It's a one-day classic in the mountains. It's La Course by le Tour de France, and it has been blown apart. This is the top of the first serious climb of the day. We began with the Col de Bluffy, then the Côte de Saint-Jean de Sixte. This is the Col de Rome. First category climb, we have one more to go, the mighty Col de la Colombière, and I'm sure you'll all remember Alberto Contador attacking in 2009, being called back by his team, ignoring audience, and there was all sorts of drama. We've got plenty more drama to come here today, because we've seen an attack by Cecilie Uttrup Ludwig. She's at the front of the race and has 59 seconds on a group of 10 to 15 riders who are, let's say, the favourites group. We have one rider remaining from the original breakaway. That was the rider in the blue there, and of course that was Leah Thomas. This is Cecilie Uttrup. I'm with Molly Weaver here, and this is a big move, and she's now got 1 minute and 3 descending, and just 4Ks to go to the start of the next climb part of it.
Yeah, she's really pulled that back out over the top. I think on the false flat she gathered herself and took some more time out, where actually the group tends to relax a little bit there, maybe sit up a bit, the attacks subside. So yeah, she managed to pull out almost double the lead now. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if she can hold that.
Yeah, having a drink and something to eat at the top as well, because it's a really hot morning, and as Joe was saying before, early alarm clocks today, difficult to get fed and watered properly before something of this magnitude. 112k and 2,500 metres of climbing. And
I think always on the climb, you don't mind putting in the effort because you know there's not so much of a benefit from a slipstream, so you're not giving too much away, you're just putting the others in difficulty. As soon as it tips over into a bit of a false flat, then you know the group tends to slow a bit as people don't want to take up the workload.
This is Spratt at the front now.
Oh,
in
Brand
the
going
black
there
on yellow. This is Lucinda Brand on the right-hand side, taking it up at the front. And now what's she going to do? She
would definitely want to be at the front of the descent. She's, I think, in my opinion, my experience, been the best descender I've come across in the peloton. By far the most skilled and technical, so she'll want to take advantage of this.
1 minute and 24, and maybe just getting the time check in her earpiece as well. And you know, they're realising that they do need to maybe start taking control. She's not just riding at the front; she is attacking here on the descent.
Yeah, I think she's come into her own in climbing this season, but the benefit of her is the descent definitely. And I think as you get further back, you get this sort of lasso effect. You get the elastic starts to snap a bit, and so riders are going to struggle with that.
So would she feel her best chance here is to take time on this descent, give herself some sliding room on the next climb, and then go on the next descent again?
Yeah, I think on the climb they just did, you could see by the end she's in a little bit of difficulty. So probably her and with the radio in the ear, they'll decide, okay, let's take some time here, take a couple of risks, and pull out some time and give herself a buffer. Because if she can get over that last climb and go on to that descent, she stands a good chance in that final.
Well, she's chasing this lady up the road.
He's pulling out more time still, which is impressive. I think quite often if you're on your own, you can pick your line as well, which does give you an advantage.
Cecilie Uttrup is leading the Best Young Rider competition in the World Tour at the moment. 1 minute and 20 seconds. Look at this, travelling at 66 kilometres per hour. Technical descent though this, hard to get to those speeds and maintain them. And risks need to be taken. That's the difficult thing about watching this.
Yeah, Lucinda's a rider where she really has belief in her own ability to descend, but also she doesn't really have that element of fear on it. She's crashed a couple of times on descent since I've raced with her, but
Ooh.
never seems to affect her.
And at this time of the morning as well, some of the road is still damp. We're seeing that in the shaded patches. And this is where it could get very dangerous. We're hearing on race radio as well now, just telling even the cars to be very careful, as we saw Grace Brown just correcting herself.
Yeah.
This is Blanc then. 29 now, by the way, 10 victories as a professional, and you mentioned she's changed more from the classics type of riding to the real hilly stuff now. She's a former winner of Omloop at Nieuwsblad. She's won Plouay here in France, which is a big classic in the west of France. In the Vendée, where began the Tour de France this year, actually. But this year, 4th in the Giro d'Italia, a winner of the team time trial with a team, and she was on the podium on the individual time trial, on the stage to Breganze as well. The final stage to Cividale del Friuli, she was hunted down by Annemiek van Vleuten and beaten towards the end, but she had a very good Giro.
I think you could see it. I saw her today in person actually, and I can see she's leaned up a lot. She's stripped down some of that muscle and some of that raw power that she had before. She looks like a completely different rider. So I think they've obviously really targeted this kind of racing. So she's going to be full of confidence into this.
It's about getting that balance as right, as we've seen it down the years with general classification contenders, people who might have been good time trialists, who could classics riders, who could climb a bit, and they say, well, let's have a go at try and win in a stage race, and they lose all that. But you've got to be careful of the percentage of the muscle mass that you it's that power to weight ratio, isn't it?
Yeah.
Here we go then. It's time to take on the final climb of the day at Cecily Uttrup Ludwig, with 7.5 kilometers to go to the top of the Col de la Colombière, 8.5% of a gradient, and the race is on now as Brandt is up to Thomas. This is the chaser, and the peloton can't see her behind.
No.
Well, this final climb that Lucinda Brand is about to hit gets harder and harder and harder all the way to the top. It starts out with a 6% gradient for the first kilometre, gets up to 8.5, 9, then 10, and maintains that to the top. It's 7.5 k's long, Col de la Colombière, and the leader of the race is already on it, a minute ahead of Lucinda Brand on the road. And this is the leader. Best young rider in the World Tour so far this year, Cervelo Bigla, and this is a team that's in a deluxe position at the moment. They have their second best climber up there, and their best climber nice and safe in the peloton.
Yeah, I think everyone's almost been talking about Mitchelton Scott as the one with two cards to play, you know, with Amanda Spratt and Annemiek van Vleuten. But this year, actually, they've been very clever in their riding here, Cervelo Bigla, and I think maybe some of the other teams have underestimated her a little bit here. They've given her quite a big buffer, and she is a superb climber herself, but here, Lucinda, that's an impressive margin she's put out on that descent as well. She'll be hoping to be able to hold that buffer, I think.
And you can say she doesn't have the typical body shape of a skinny climber that we're seeing up the road at the moment. It is a different type of effort for Lucinda Brand to say, let's Cecily Uttrup.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think she's one who more has to stay in her own rhythm, in control of her own climbing. Uttrup Ludwig can do a bit more of the accelerations and a bit more of the jumpy climbing, which comes from...
Are we thinking more of the Brad Wiggins style climbing when he won the Tour de France and you know, had to lose that little bit of extra weight from the time trialling, but still maintain his power and hold on the climbs and take what he could elsewhere.
Yeah, and it's really about the balance of it, but that's somewhere we're being on. We've seen Taylor Wiles at the back.
It's been such a good ride from Taylor Wiles so far.
Riding amazingly, but that's a shame as well. I think being on a team, one of the bigger teams like Sunweb, you have the advantage of having nutritionists and having a lot of experts. I mean, in the women's side, not as many teams have that, so they'll help her manage that really well, so you're more likely to get it right.
More problems too for 196 there, who's Edwige Pitel, who's the best chance from Kojès Meta Pro Cycling, Russian team, but French star. Good Eden Marino managed to get back on the descent.
Yeah, you can see the sun made some contact, yeah.
It looks as though already she's losing the wheel and not looking in a good place, the Basque rider. She still has Margarita Garcia just in front of her. Alechi Polini, she'll have another Spanish rider in Ana Santesteban.
Is that Leah from the break there, going backwards?
Yep, and Katie Hall still in the group as well. 6 is Amanda Spratt. Now Annemiek van Vleuten at the front and putting the pace on. It's time for her maybe to make her move.
So far, Van der Breggen's given nothing away. She's been hidden. It's going to be interesting to see how she responds to these accelerations. Van
der Breggen in a great place at the minute, and Mitchelton Scott now forced to do the chasing because of the fact that Cervelo Bigla have the rider up the road.
Yeah, and I think they knew going into this that all pressure was on them for this. It was their job to chase things down. obviously the reigning champion, it always falls on your shoulders.
Kasia Niewiadoma was the rider in the black and magenta jersey for Canyon SRAM. Again, we're talking about that Trek Drops jersey earlier on, one of the best in the peloton as well, Canyon SRAM.
Yeah.
Very, very classy national champions jerseys too. Uttrup with a good ride here, travelling, you can see 16 kilometres per hour. We're talking steep gradients throughout this climb. French fans out in force, despite the fact that it's early on a Tuesday morning. Come over from Valais in Switzerland as well, the flag's there.
It's interesting to see Van Vleuten taking this up and not Amanda Spratt.
Does that suggest to you that Spratt's feeling better?
Or that Van Vleuten's feeling amazing and she wants to string them out. We see her swinging off there. They might have a bit of a conversation about that. It's difficult between those two. Obviously, you don't know who's come off the Giro feeling what. But sometimes Van Vleuten likes to take up the initiative and actually push the riders herself and just test the waters, which may be what she was doing there.
Van Vleuten, the defending champion from the Izoire last year, remember, adding a name to the list that included Marianne Vos, Anna van der Breggen, Chloe Hosking. Anna van der Breggen, remember, winning from a breakaway on the Champs-Élysées. This is where she's trying to win it in the mountains, but she's got chasing to do first. Still has Megan Guarnier in there to help her do the chasing, who got back on again on that descent.
At the moment she's pulling out a little bit more time, but it looked like they were kind of looking at each other in the group behind, almost nobody wanting to take it up, and it not being a stage race, there's no one who's a GC leader where it's their responsibility automatically, so I think they're going to have to organise themselves and decide who has to do the chasing before they give her too much time.
Chartreuse du Reposoir. Nice morning to be in that garden. Empty though, because they're all on the side of the road watching this.
You can see the time just ticking up though that she's pulling out from them.
Still just under 6 kilometres to go, and we've had an attack. Spratt. It's Spratt to go, and that was that chat was about. Spratt attack, she's being followed by Garcia, but I tell you what, looking $1 million on the left-hand side, Moolman, no problem to close that gap whatsoever. It's Guarnier the first to close the gap as well for Bullstolmans, pardon me.
Again, you can't tell whether that's because Van der Breggen's maybe not feeling great or if she's trying to save it for the final. She'll be very much watching Van Vleuten as well, so probably wants to mark her rather than go after something like this.
Garcia gritting her teeth there in the blue jersey for Movistar. This is Amanda Spratt, who was third in the Giro d'Italia, 6 minutes from her teammate, by the way.
She's also been a bit of a breakout this season, especially in the classics. Historically, they've had only really one option in the climbing, whereas she's really come into her own this year.
Problems for Niewiadoma at the back here. Just has to try and hold on. She's on the wheel of Erika Magnaldi. Erika Magnaldi, who still has a teammate in there, in Nicola Novoska. Two riders from the B-Pink team. As it calms down yet again. 20 kilometres from the finish line for the leader. 14 of those kilometres are descent. It's going to be a fast finish here today. At the business end now of La Course by Le Tour de France. We're into the final 20 kilometres and a gap of 1 minute and 23 seconds on the road for Cecilie Uttrup Ludwig, the 22-year-old Danish talent riding for Cervelo Bigla. Plenty of good legs back in this group as well. Kasia Niewiadoma, the former Polish champion, still hanging on. 6 at the back there, the last to attack. Yeah. Amanda Spratt, who's had a very good year's, you were saying, there. And this is Garcia. At the minute, nobody following.
They probably wouldn't see her as much of a threat. I think it's different for someone like Moolman. She has a teammate up the road, obviously, which is an advantage. But the other favourites have a teammate in that group, so they can attack and counter-attack her. So she now has to measure her effort and not just shut down everything that goes.
Margarita Victoria Garcia Canellas, riding for Movistar. Had ridden for the Basque team Vizcaya Durango for the last few years. Just a couple of wins in her career so far. But she's a former top 20 finisher in the Giro d'Italia. This year, she managed her best ever place, 11th in the general classification. And we've had movement behind. It looks as though that might be from Vleuten. Let's have a look.
No, Spratt again. Yeah.
Spratt for the second time. She's being followed once again by the same riders. Ashleigh Moolman. Now, is this a tactic to try and tire Ashleigh Moolman out?
This is a clever tactic to get rid of her. I think that she now has to follow everything because she has no one to help her there. So if she lets anything go, then that could potentially then stay away. So yeah, they'll be doing that, but also just trying to tie her legs out. If it stays a consistent chase, you're probably less likely to drop some of those names. You can see the likes of Cassia and Uvdoma. She was struggling a little bit, so if you keep the attacks rolling, then you're likely to break the elastic for her as well.
And I think we saw that Van Vleuten doesn't mind that stop-start rhythm. If you can win on Monted Zoncolan, you have to be able to sort of withstand that sort of rhythm.
Yeah, and I think if it's her teammate going, you're a bit more aware of them, but also she then doesn't have to chase. We've
got to move again now.
Yeah.
We've got to move again. This time,
that's Van der Breggen.
It's Van der Breggen, the Olympic champion. Van der Breggen is being followed by Van Vleuten. And Cervelo Bigler sending, of course, Ashley Moolman up the road to follow, and that has broken the group.
Yeah, but interestingly, Spratt followed that as well, which is a strange one. So Van Vleuten followed her, then Moolman, and Spratt then also closed that gap instead of letting those three go. So that shows maybe they have a tactic to go with Vleuten later.
Not good news for Niewiadoma though. 104 there on your screen. Not good news at all. Problems too for Ana Santesteban. And well, the whole Be Pink team looks like it's been blown out of the water.
And she's broken that, yeah.
So Garcia dropped. Spratt behind in the group. Guarnier behind in the group. This is now a group of 3 riders, and it's the 3 big favourites.
I think we're seeing here that Van der Breggen does have very good legs today. That seemed almost effortless, and she snapped that to Amanda Spratt pretty easily.
Race situation at the front then. Cecily Uttrup Ludwig ahead of Lucinda Brandt, behind the 3 pre-race favourites in Van der Breggen, Van Vleuten, and of course the rider with them, Ashley Moolman Passio.
You can see in that flurry of attacks though, she's already lost, over 20 seconds. So you think if they keep up with that relentless effort, then she's going to struggle to maintain this over the rest of this climb.
But politically in that group, it's interesting who does the work, because do they all work together now? I'm not sure they do.
It really depends on the dynamic of the riders. I think now they're going to probably be looking to Van der Breggen to take up a lot of that. She initiated it. They perhaps didn't want that to be how it went down, but also they need to work together a little bit if they want to catch her, so you have to sort of balance that.
But Ashley Moolman's got a rider up the road. Is she going to contribute? That's the question.
Moolman won't contribute, no,
exactly.
100% not. So now she's back to having the advantage because no one has numbers at this point.
Absolutely fascinating tactically, this ride.
They've played it really, really cleverly. I think they've really utilised their numbers, whereas a lot of these teams they lost them at the start of the climb before this, but they didn't seem to actually get much out of the tank at that point. I think maybe it'd have been better for them to go on this sort of a tactic where you send more riders up the road, don't just leave your one out there.
Lucinda Brandt is about to be caught. Oh, she's quite away from the top of the climb yet as well.
If she's managed her effort, then this was also clever from her, because of course she's now missed all those accelerations and attacks, and she can just hopefully hold on to the back of this trio.
Still Van der Breggen riding, as you would expect here. Van Vleuten just sitting on behind in the black and yellow. In the white jersey with the navy blue shorts, the South African star, Ashley Moolman Passio, second at the recent Giro d'Italia. And this is the 3rd group on the road now.
Of course, now in this group, 2 of those riders will refuse to come through, so it's kind of all down to Katie Hall at this point, so that's going to be difficult for her to close that gap now as well.
And if she gets anywhere near, she'll be emptying the tank trying to do that. Very little left at the end. Now, this has been a good ride from Lucinda Brandt. Interesting to see what happens here. What does she have left? Can she hold on in this favourites group, or is she going to go straight out the back? If she can hold on, she's still a factor with the descent to come.
Yeah, and I think where she took her time on the descent, it wouldn't have taken as much energy in terms of just pure watts. So hopefully she's now managed this effort well, and she's actually ended up with fresher legs than if she tried to follow all the attacks. So this could have been a really clever move by Sunweb.
And we're about to find out, because there is contact. This is now officially Group 2 on the road. Van Vleuten, Van der Breggen, Moolman Passio and Brandt. 3 Dutch women out of South Africa.
Yeah.
You can just see, we talked about on the descent there, in those shaded areas.
Yeah, it's shiny.
There's
it's
still,
wet, yeah.
the sun hasn't got up yet. So one to think of on the descent, because we saw Brandt taking so many risks.
Yeah, I spoke to her earlier about the descending, and she's saying it's not as technical, the second one. But still, I think if you're more confident, you're willing to push it a little bit further, then you can still take a little bit of time at there as well.
46 seconds, the gap to the front of the race is going down. Advantage here to Cervelo Bigler, who have a rider up the road. And a rider sitting very nicely, having done very little work today. That rider we're talking about is Ashley Moorman, third in that quartet of riders. Wind blowing from the side of the road as well. Left-hand side, the Giro winner. Second place in the Giro. Third place is behind in the group. This is a former Giro winner. And this is a rider with infinite potential. 48 seconds with 18 kilometres to go. Three and a half kilometres from the top of the Col de la Colombière, and we're on to the hardest gradients now. It doesn't really dip below 10% all the way to the top.
No, I think this is going to be where maybe the more of the climbers in that group are going to come into their own a bit more, because obviously when it's a flatter gradient you can use your time trial ability a bit more than you can on the steep stuff.
Cecilie Uttrup Ludwig, Danish star, still only 22, leading the youth classification on the World Tour and leading her team up the Col de la Colombière. She still has a gap of 51 seconds.
And she's held that steady now since that quartet now been off the front, so it's going to be interesting to see. Oh,
movement on the left-hand side, and Van Vleuten is having a go.
Oh, and Brand's lost the wheel a little bit there.
And this might be the move to try and get rid of Brand.
Yeah.
If she knows everyone else might start to contribute, certainly Van der Breggen, if they contribute together, they can maybe put Brand, and of course Dutch national teammates, they know each other's strengths and weaknesses very well.
I think also they wouldn't want to take a rider like Brand to the final anyway, because on paper she'd beat them in that sprint, so they'll want to be getting rid of her. I think also Van Vleuten will be probably worried about the other two as well, to take them to the final. I think that would be a really interesting sprint, but it would be a bit of a gamble for her. So if she can, she'll want to split them up here.
Yeah, if you remember, she's a strong time trialist, but she won uphill last year on the UCI. Today a very different finish, more climbing. However, it is a downhill finish, 14 kilometres from the top to the bottom. And with only, 3 kilometres now with which to make your move, things are getting hot. It's Van Vleuten here at the front. Brand has been dropped. She'll just ride her own climb and hope to still be in touch now.
Yeah, she'll just ride her own tempo, settle into a rhythm, and like she'll hope to either get back to them or maintain a closable gap.
She'll be riding to power here?
I wouldn't know. It depends rider to rider really who does what. I think at this point as well, with the fatigue of the Giro in this stage, even if you were used to riding to power, it'd be difficult to know how much you had left. But at this point, you'd be going for as fast as you could without blowing up.
Van der Breggen at the back. Paul Stolman's riding disc brakes today, by the way. Just to see if that's a factor in the descent. I think Lucinda Brand did quite well on the rims on the way down.
Yeah.
Leader of the race. It's the tense moments before the explosion of the descent. And again, we're waiting for more attacks before the top of this climb, because we will get them.
Yeah, and she's lost again more of that advantage, really going up and down as they accelerate and attack. But at this point, I think none of them are going to want to take Van der Breggen to the final, because you would probably tip her to win that if it came down to just speed in those final meters. So I think it's going to be interesting to see if they catch Uttrup Ludwig, how they play that as well within Bigler, because they're obviously going to have two, but they'll also want to keep one up the road.
Well, the gap getting to around 30 seconds. You can see the car's pretty close now to being pulled out. A couple of the motorbikes being pulled out of the gap too. She's just on the swing a little left to right. It's been a big ride this Cecilie Uttrup Ludwig has put in. A very big ride indeed. We're now 2.5 kilometres from the top. Danish fans have been very happy seeing their star come past, and this is what's chasing them. And of course, the closer that gap gets, the more it's going to bring Ashley Moorman-Pasio back into the game. Delighted to be joined again on commentary by Joe Rousel-Shan. Joe, you've
Hello.
had a time for a quick coffee. Watching the race, how's it panning out for you?
Oh, it's very exciting. I'm super impressed by Cecilie Uttrup Ludwig. This is incredible. She's one of those riders that, like I mentioned earlier, people have been talking about for a couple of years. Previous white jersey at the Giro last year. And if she
that
could,
was Van Vleuten, pardon me, on the left-hand side. Pardon me, Joe, because Van Vleuten's put in another move, and it's difficult again for Anne van der Breggen to follow.
This is brilliant racing. These are the three that we've been talking about, and it's great to see this sort of showdown. But just the fact that we've got a rider up the road as well, obviously with a teammate here, just makes it even more interesting. So, yeah, absolutely loving this.
Ashley Moolman just pulling off, having a look, and again a move, again a dig from Vleuten going once more. The third time she's had a go. They're desperately trying to get rid of Van der Breggen.
They are desperately trying to get rid of her. They must think that perhaps she's the better descender here, but like we said, we've got 14k to finish after this climb. It's not just a hill climb, and Annemiek van Vleuten's thinking she needs the gap. She doesn't want to leave this to a group coming together for a sprint at the end. She wants to get away now.
If you think of the run into the finish, we all drove it today. It's not exactly fully flat. There's a couple of little ramps, aren't there, towards the end, and it's the sort of sprint to the line that I think Van der Breggen, a little more power in the legs, would enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you take Van der Breggen to the finish here, she's going to win the sprint. So I think the other riders are aware of that, and it is down to them now to see what they can do. And now they've got Cecilia Ludwig in their sights, just around that bend.
21 seconds, and with Cecilia Ludwig up there, you must think now that Ashley Moolman must be planning her attack.
Yeah, well, this whole team have ridden brilliantly. Savello Bigler, we have a rider in the break from the start, Lotte Lepista. Super impressed with Cecile as well. And yeah, so it's crunch time really now. What can Ashley Moolman-Passio do? Can she finish off the job? She's here with these two Dutch riders they are both all looking incredibly strong. Nothing much to separate them at the moment, but it's Annemiek making all these moves from the front, so what can Ashley do?
And this climb just gets harder and harder and harder to the top, by the way. We're talking plus 10% gradients towards the end now, and we are 2 kilometres from the top.
Yeah, very tough to finish this time. So the previous climb was obviously tough at the bottom. This one, it's going to be tough at this stage of a bike race. Like we said, obviously coming off the back of the Giro as well. I do actually think that could be an advantage to an extent. The people that have ridden the Giro, they know how their legs are. There's not a sort of question mark. They know what they've got. Whereas if you're coming in fresh with a bit of lack of racing, you're not quite sure where your form is so much. That can be more difficult. But 11%, 10-11% here. This is really tough. There's still a long way to go.
A look behind from Cecilia Utrup. Now, is there going to be a jump maybe into the slipstream of the motorbikes from Ashley Moolman, and then a last dig, a last little bit of a turn from the rider in front? I'm not sure she's got any energy left to give anything back.
I think there needs to be, though. Like I say, it's a one-day race. Nothing to lose. There's no tomorrow. There's no bike racing tomorrow, and these girls have been racing day in, day out at the Giro. Go big today.
What a race situation we have in La Course by Le Tour de France. One rider at the front about to be caught. She has a teammate behind it. Cecilie Utrup Ludwig, the Danish star in the white jersey here at the front on French roads in the Alps. Chasing her down, last year's winner Annemiek van Vleuten, winner of many classics and the Giro 12 months ago, the Olympic champion Anna van der Breggen, and a teammate, Ashley Moolman-Passio, is in the form of her life, second at the Giro d'Italia, just 2 days ago. And it looks as though everything is about to come together. We have 1.5 kilometres remaining before the top of this climb as Van der Breggen starts to make a move. Just puts on the pace now. Interesting this from Van der Breggen.
She's getting herself to the front there, gets it in control. Coming up behind Cecilia Ludwig there, just closing that gap.
And here goes Ashley Moolman. As soon as her teammate is caught, off she goes, and the challenge is to follow. Ashley Moolman-Passio setting the tone, setting the pace, and blowing it apart at the front. At the minute, it's Van der Breggen on her wheel. Van Vleuten's there, and I think Utrup is gone, is done, is dusted. That's it. It's Van der Breggen with a second attack. Van Vleuten who's following, and they have 1 kilometre and 300 metres to try and rip each other's legs off.
Yes, they do. That wasn't possibly quite enough of a jump there from Ashley. I know she did her best, but she didn't quite have that gap. To get a gap over someone like Anna van der Breggen, who has got such good peak power as well, is always going to be very difficult. And that was the perfect time to make the move, and we all said that's where she's going to go, but didn't quite have the jump, and Anna van der Breggen was straight on that.
And look at this from Van der Breggen, seated out of the saddle. Van Vleuten just struggling to hold the wheel now. This is a big move from Van der Breggen, and it looks as though Ashley Moolman's struggling too. After waiting in, sitting in, waiting in, sitting in, kilometre to go to the top, and Ashley Moolman is in crisis.
She is. The difference in cadence between these front two riders is huge. Anna van der Breggen spinning away, Annemiek van Vleuten grinding away. She's getting back to her, but the difference in style, you can see that Annemiek is suffering more, and you can see that van der Breggen is just on it, just dancing away there.
Well, you might at this point be expecting van der Breggen to be the one sitting on and waiting for the descent, waiting for the finish, knowing she's a stronger finisher. Ashley Moolman-Pasio is in crisis behind, and Annemiek van Vleuten can feel the weight of the Giro d'Italia in her legs. Pink jersey 48 hours ago, but it's the pink jersey from 12 months ago who's rested up and is in the form of her season, is up and riding away from the main challengers. This is Anna van der Breggen's race to lose.
It really is. She's showing here how strong she looks. This is one of the few races on her Palmares she hasn't had. I mean, last year she didn't compete in this, and you know, being a mountain stage now compared to the flat one it used to be, it's a different bike race. You know, it is a different bike race, and you wanted this on your Palmares. It is so huge, but look at that gap now, and I think Annemiek saying, you know, that's her done on this climb. So less than a K to go to the top of this climb, but then it's this 14K to go to the finish here. It's not all over. You know, a lot can happen, a lot can change.
And we talked about how tricky the descents are here, the fact that some of them are under trees and wet, of course. We know that anything can happen, any mistake, any little attack of the yips on the descent as well. We shall see. And of course, Anna van der Breggen, the Olympic champion, with Annemiek van Vleuten there. They both know about dodgy descents. Remember what happened at the Olympic Games when we were all aghast at what happened and very worried for the state of Annemiek van Vleuten's health. Thankfully, those two will not need to be reminded of that situation.
This is a great ride by Anna, though. She's waited and she's followed when she needed to, and now she's put the hammer down. And you know, having had two teammates as well from Cervelo Bigler together, everyone was always thinking what they're going to do. Ashley Moolman-Pasio made the attack exactly when we thought she would, but Anna van der Breggen was right there. And now she is just riding away, and she looks so in control. She looks so composed.
500 metres to the top of the Col de la Colombière.
So long 500 metres that, though, isn't it?
Certainly a 10%
yes,
rating.
Yes.
Ashley Moolman-Pasio. Might be disappointing at how she reacted there. One little attack and just didn't have the legs, because her team have ridden brilliantly all day long.
They have ridden brilliantly, and you know, they can also be very proud of that. And it's been a good bike race. You know, bike race is about entertainment, and it has been good to watch. And obviously, she'll dearly want to have been able to finish this off. But on a situation like this, you know, if someone's got better legs, you've got to say, you know, take your hat off to them, fair play, well done. And Anna van der Breggen here, just still, you know, they're not gone, they're not completely gone, but she is looking so much more in control.
Anna van der Breggen, hardly seen her out the saddle yet. She is riding so strongly. Of course, this year won the Amstel Gold Race. 11% for Anna van der Breggen.
I think she's already had 4 World Tour wins this year. So earlier on in the season, so already a brilliant season, and I'm looking forward to Road Worlds a lot. Obviously, a very strong Dutch team, but you know, who's gonna really target that? And it is a very, very heady course this year.
Reigning Olympic champion in the orange at the front. Behind her, her teammate from the Netherlands, Annemiek van Vleuten, the world time trial champion, who now has a Maglia Rosa to add to her collection. 3rd place on the road in the white, 2nd place at the Giro d'Italia, Ashley Moolman-Pasio, the former national champion of South Africa. And here she is. Just over 14.5 kilometres to go to the finish. It's going to be a fast finish now, let's not forget. And it's up to Anna van der Breggen to keep her head and maintain the advantage to the finale. She has a huge advantage, but it's not over yet. 100 metres to the top. Big cheers as Van Vleuten is fighting back.
She is digging deep, you know, so she can close this gap over this. The race is not over. It's still a long way to the finish. A lot can happen on the descent. Anything can happen in the sprint. I know we're thinking van der Breggen probably the stronger sprinter, but you know, it's not over till it's over. She has to put herself back in this bike race.
And Van Vleuten in particular, coming over there very, very well. And van der Breggen, when it looked as though she'd broken the 2 behind, still maybe has one for competition.
Definitely, Annemiek van Vleuten won't let this go. You know, the bike race is not over. It's interesting how this descent will be ridden. How if they come together early, if anyone tries to go for an attack. Anna van der Breggen obviously looking incredibly strong, but like I say, the bike race is not over yet.
And this is where it'll finish, here in Le Grand Bornand. Very nice town, quite a pretty town. Some of the ski resorts around here much more full of hotels that have been stood there since the 60s, but this is lovely, and we are waiting the arrival of the bike race. Out there in front, starting the descent, Anna van der Breggen, and she's being chased by Annemiek van Vleuten and of course Ashley Moolman-Pasio. Into the final 13.5 kilometres, and it's all downhill from here with that final little rise inside the last kilometre to the finish. There's the rider in second place, and it's about what they can give on the descent, what sort of risks they can take. This is going to be a fast and furious finish, Jo Russell.
It is. You know, you've got to balance between risks. They probably won't have looked at this descent themselves anyway before this race, but these are class bike riders. They know what they're doing, they know their limits, they know the limits of their equipment, but also, like we say, nothing to lose. One day race, no tomorrow, and this is a big win to get. Annemiek van Vleuten already had this win last year, but you know, she wants it again, and Ashley Moolman-Pasio, this would be absolutely huge for her. She is not going to just leave this be as it is.
Anna van der Breggen amazingly won this race on the Champs-Élysées, getting away in the last couple of kilometres, taking advantage of a bit of hesitation, using her time trial skills. A couple of years have passed since then. She's now in the mountains, trying to win on her terrain. And this is the gap she has. It is not big at all. We're talking of a handful of seconds.
Yeah, still very much all to play for. You know, she needs to get her head down and go for it, but you know, the others have got the carrot to chase. You know, when you've got someone in your sights, it makes a huge amount of difference. And I think Ashley Moolman-Pasio she's a little bit out of sight here. She's not quite got someone to chase in quite the same way. But Annemiek and Anna van der Breggen, you know, she's very much in her sights, and yeah, that gap will come together, I'm pretty sure. 7
seconds between Anna van der Breggen and Annemiek van Vleuten, two top climbers from the Netherlands, two riders who can time trial very well indeed. We have the world champion chasing Anna van der Breggen. 8 seconds now, though. It looks as though Van der Breggen is pulling out a little time.
Yeah, Anna van der Breggen, very class bike rider, getting herself in a position here, getting herself aero. But yeah, she's not got someone to chase in you. If you keep looking over your shoulder as well, that's going to slow you down. So you need to sort of get your head down and focus. But yeah, it's not far, it's not big, that gap, is it?
If I were Anna van der Breggen or the sports director, I'd be a little bit unhappy about those motorbikes in that gap.
Yes, yeah, that's not what you want at all. No, it's not. It's an interesting situation because it's how much do you risk on this ascent as well, and we probably think she's the better sprinter, but you never really want to risk a race leaving it to a sprint if you can be away on your own, do you? You know, it's nice to win on your own, nice to be able to celebrate on your own as well. But yeah, Annemiek very much got the bit between her teeth here, not letting this one go just yet.
Van Vleuten did have one camera motorbike in front of her that she was right behind on that flatter section there, and there's the neutral service motorbike as well. Really interesting to see what the commissars do with these. The minute the neutral service is well out of position, but if the gap gets closer, surely it's got to be pulled out.
Oh, definitely, that's not where you want a motorbike. Obviously, huge difference that can make.
And look at the difference, 5 seconds now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're going to come back together, but then how will that unfold? Will someone attack? Will someone go for it? Will they wait for the sprint? Like we say, Anna van der Breggen on paper, you'd say the sprinter, but is Annemiek going to risk that, or is she going to go straight over the top? What can she do? But yeah, inside 10k to go now.
Ashley Moolman-Pasio probably out of the game at 30 seconds now.
Yes, yeah, I think that's not going to be a gap she's going to make back on this descent. I think she rode brilliantly. I think her team rode brilliantly. I would have loved to have seen her win, but you know, these two girls were the stronger two climbers, and now they've got that gap in the descent. I don't think she's going to be able to close that.
Anna van der Breggen at the front of the race. Olympic champion against the world time trial champion chasing her behind. It's a mouth-watering prospect at the end of La Course here with Ashley Moolman-Pasio, whose team have ridden brilliantly all day. Rider in the break, rider on the counter-attack. Rider behind just didn't have the legs to finish the job. But it's been a brilliant ride, and we've seen the cream of the crop really rise.
It has been an awesome race, but this gap is just hanging at the moment between the two of them, isn't it? It's Anna van der Breggen's just getting herself out of sight on the occasional bend. 72 kilometres an hour. Wow, these girls are moving.
Look at that increasing speed as well as van der Breggen tries to take all of that aero advantage, getting up to 80 k's an hour.
Obviously, at those sort of speeds, it's so difficult to close the gap. Obviously, the slower the part of the course, the bigger difference you can make. But here, very, very difficult to close. You know, you've got to be over 8k now to be closing that sort of gap, and it's very, very difficult at this stage. But still over 8k to go, and I do think, you know, Annemiek's not giving up here. She's not letting this go, and she at least in this situation she can descend at her own pace. She can keep her in her sights, not be glued to a wheel, and just wait, see what happens.
8 seconds, the gap has grown again, and 8 kilometres remain. Almost halfway through this descent already. It's rapid stuff out here, travelling at almost 80 kilometres per hour.
This is some very, very good descending by Anna van der Breggen. We know she gets some races in the mountain bike a bit as well. We know she's a very, very skillful bike rider. And she's doing a brilliant job here of maintaining this gap.
10 seconds. 10 seconds. You could see the way she negotiated those little bits of the chicane that were on. And you said it's not the most technical of descents, this. And maybe Anna van der Breggen slightly the heavier rider as well of the two.
Yeah, perhaps. Without knowing their stats, I don't know. But yeah, she is riding it well. She's taking the right lines. You know, you can lose so much on a descent by riding it badly, by taking the wrong lines, braking when you don't need to brake. And she is riding brilliantly. She's still pedalling here. Nice, solid position. Getting herself aero when she can on the straighter bits brilliantly. Right on cue there for me saying that. Yeah, descending this really well, and you know, really showing how it's done.
82 kilometres per hour. This is the third rider on the road. Ashley Moolman-Pasio, I think realistically will know that the race, the win anyway, has gone for her. A chance to be on the podium though, on one of the most prestigious one-day races of the season.
Yeah, and that's a very big deal, and I think, you know, she'll have to be very pleased with how this last sort of week and a half's gone with her for the Giro and for this. Obviously everyone wants to get the win. You know, you start a bike race wanting to be the winner, wanting to be one with your hands in the air, but a team have rode really well, and yeah, it's made it interesting for us to watch as well, hasn't it?
Annemiek van Vleuten, second on the road, 6.5 kilometres remain. Van der Breggen, last count we had 10 seconds. Waiting for new time gaps.
Yep, just over 6k. Big bend coming up here. Just sat on the hoods at the moment as well. She is looking relaxed. I didn't say Annemiek's the one with the work to do, and it is difficult to close the gap on this sort of descent. If no one makes a mistake, it is very challenging. But yeah, taking that nicely as well.
It's been a while since Anna van der Breggen was able to put her arms in the air as well. 10 seconds she has at the minute, but she hasn't won a race since mid-May when she won the Durango race in the Basque Country. But before that, it wasn't a bad campaign in the Ardennes, was it, this year? Liège and Flèche Wallonne yet again.
Yes. Continuing
her dominance there after it was a teammate who'd won the Amstel Gold in the World Champions jersey, Chantal.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, she is a fantastic rider. There's not much stuff that she hasn't won in her palmarès. World Championships being the big one. She has won the course before, but it was obviously a very different race to this one, so this is a good one to add. But yeah, we're seeing 10 seconds now between the two of them. That's just that 9, 10. It's just maintaining nicely.
3/4 of a minute back to Ashley Moolman. The chase is on. The race has been on right from the get-go today. It's been a brilliant edition of La Course. We've seen some of the best racing we've had since the whole Tour de France party began. This is top stuff on the roads of the Alps in France, and we're talking 9 seconds between Anna van der Breggen at the front, the 28-year-old from the Netherlands, 31 career victories, the Olympic champion, riding away from Annemiek van Vleuten, her compatriot. At 47 seconds back from the front of the race, this is Ashley Moolman-Pasio, second at the recent Giro d'Italia, South African national champion a couple of years back, and here she is riding for Cervelo Bigla. The leader is the rider on camera here with 4 kilometres to go to the finish, still downhill, and it's inside that last kilometre that the road just slightly goes uphill again.
Yeah, I think this is going to go all her way. I think it's too difficult to make up time. The descent is too fast. Perhaps if it had been more technical, there's more room for error, isn't there? But this has been such a fast descent. Both riders descending really well, and you know it's been between 5 and 10 seconds the whole time. but Anna van der Breggen, giving a masterclass in how to race this, and she's the one everyone had been talking about. We'd all talked about Annemiek van Vleuten, obviously with that stunning Giro victory, but Anna van der Breggen was the fresh rider, and perhaps you wouldn't normally pick to do 10 days of racing before another big race. And Anna van der Breggen, we always sort of said, how is she going to be, what form is she in? And she's proving exactly what form she's in, and it's very, very good form.
And she's proved herself before at the Giro. Let's not forget, she's a two-time winner in the last 3 years of the Giro d'Italia. You said there's not much left for her to win. 4 times in succession at La Flèche Wallonne. She's won Liège on multiple occasions, twice in the last 2 years, the Olympic champion, and just proving she's such a versatile rider. She takes that tight corner. Let's see what Van Vleuten does here. Takes it a little wider. Probably took that one a little better, in fact. 7 seconds now.
Oh, yes, that's the lowest. Seen it for a while, isn't it? And you can just see them in the sights there. When you can get your head down and see a rider, it makes a big difference. And I'm not giving up on Annemiek at all. I'm not giving up on her.
And on this flat, she's chasing the camera motorbike there as well.
Oh yes, well that's obviously going to make a difference. And he's got out of the way now. He's got out of the way. He's listened to you.
I think he's been called out of the way by race radio. 2.5 kilometres to go.
Wow, and of course Annemiek is the world time trial champion, and this is what she does best. Get her head down and give it everything. And it's not.
And she's coming back. She's coming back. Here we go. 2.3 kilometres to go. Okay, that gap is going to be a little foreshortened with a head-on shot there, but at 45 kilometres per hour, anything can happen in the final 2.2 kilometres of this brilliant, brilliant race we've seen today. And look at the crowds here. The very best in the women's peloton on show in Le Grand Bornand, and there are 2 kilometres for Anna van der Breggen to survive, to pick up her second win of La Course, and if she could pull this off, she'd become the first woman to win this race on more than one occasion.
This would be a spectacular victory for her, and it has been a brilliant bike race. It's good to see so many crowds out as well. I mean, they're getting 2 for the price of 1 today, with the men coming along later as well. And it has been awesome. It's been great to see the race unfold. It's been great to talk about the different tactics and the different teams, and what's going to happen post-Giro as well. But that gap is not big, and that was it.
There was 7 seconds at the last count. It looks shorter than that on the screen. And it starts to go uphill again for little sections now. 1.5 kilometres remain. Van der Breggen cannot ease up at all here. Van Vleuten still looking mightily good behind. Now, has she timed this to perfection? Certainly the different styles are clear for both to see.
Oh yeah, the cadence versus the bigger gear of Annemiek. It is really interesting to see the different styles. And I think that gap's coming down, isn't it? It is. Is she going to make it? Is she going to time it perfectly? Is she going to just catch her on the line?
No updated time gaps coming through at the minute from race radio, but it is looking a lot shorter.
Yeah.
Van der Breggen approaching the last kilometre now. 4 seconds with 1 kilometre to go, and this is turning into a mightily entertaining race. Van der Breggen at the front riding for her life, but Van Vleuten has taken 4 seconds in that last K. Can she take the final 4 and pip her on the line? I'm not sure. Van Vleuten looks like she's hurting now from this effort.
She's hurting a lot, and of course she's hurting a lot, but she knows she's got less than a K to go, and that's it, and she's done. And we've just, Anna van der Breggen's been having her head down the whole time, but she must know she's just there.
She just looked round. She has just looked round. 3 hours, 19 minutes, 30 seconds. What a race! And Anna van der Breggen still has to ride for dear life to hold on. 500 metres to go. She's holding on at the minute, but by the skin of her teeth. It's Anna van der Breggen, the Dutchwoman, the Olympic champion, riding away for Boels Dolmans, the team that dominate the classics. Well, this is a mountain classic, and Annemiek van Vleuten, the rider in form, is going to be heartbroken, I think, in the last couple of 100 metres. Van der Breggen looks set to hold on. I think she has it now. 200 metres from the finish as it goes up again. One last effort for Anna van der Breggen, who won this on the Champs-Élysées 2 years ago. Anna van der Breggen at the front of the race. It's Van Vleuten chasing down behind. We're approaching the final 150 metres now. You can get a better finish here in France this year. It's Van der Breggen at the front as they bang on the boards. Van Vleuten behind. Dutchwoman against Dutchwoman. And Van der Breggen is going to hold on just, I think. Or is she? Van Vleuten gets closer as they come to the final 100 metres. And she's going to have her heart broken. It's Annemiek van Vleuten. And Van der Breggen runs out of gas, and Annemiek van Vleuten, just as we all thought it was done and dusted, Bregen's heart right on the finish line. That is the most incredible finish we've ever seen in this race, and we are absolutely gobsmacked.
Oh, wow, absolutely timed to perfection there by Annemiek. I really thought Anna van der Breggen had it all the way till 200 metres to go. I was convinced. What a finish to what an epic bike race that was. Absolutely incredible.
Well, Joe, you can go off upstairs and we'll hear your reaction when you've got your breath back with Jonathan Edwards in just a moment's time. But we looked around at each other, and I think with 250 metres we thought it was done and dusted. It certainly wasn't. Annemiek van Vleuten had a tale to tell at the end, and she's the first woman to win this on more than one occasion. What a race! Ridden on the fastest time schedule, and I can tell you that Ashley Moolman-Pasio is going to finish a very good third, and it looks as though she's pretty happy about it too. She's ridden a fantastic race, as has her team. She's going to come in over a minute down in the end. Such exciting stuff. Third place for Ashley Moolman-Pasio. So it's Van Vleuten, Van der Breggen, Moolman, and this is how it went. 150 metres to go. Van der Breggen's still going. It's that final lip up to the line that really does for Van der Breggen. Van Vleuten in that huge gear she was pedalling. And it is no more than 20 metres from the line, maybe even 10. Annemiek van Vleuten wins a quite incredible race. And I tell you what, ASO, bosses, if you are watching, we need a women's Tour de France. They've no excuse now. We have been mightily entertained. Megan Guarnier to come across sprinting for minor places with Kasia Niewiadoma. Guarnier will be disappointed knowing that at the end of the day it was a very, very disappointing day for her team. Delight for Van Vleuten, disappointment, heartbreak even for Van der Breggen. And we all hope that this is a start of something much bigger. The crowds were there, the riders were there, the parkour was perfect, the entertainment was endless. ASO with Van Vleuten with her arms in the air. Are you watching? This should be the start of the women's tour. Well, what a morning we've had. The final shakedown ends like this with Annemiek van Vleuten winning by a single second from Anna van der Breggen, who looked on several occasions to have it won. It looks as though we're ready to hear from the winner. Here she is, the first two-time winner.
How does it feel to win that way?
Last year was super nice, but I think also this was a race. This was unbelievable. With 300 meters to go, I still thought I got second, and then I saw her dying, and to win like this, I didn't know that I'm in good shape, but Anna van der Breggen is also a very good cyclist, so it was a really tough ride, but beautiful.
Yeah, at the top of La Colombière, were you confident that you could still win the race?
The gap was really, really small, and I know she's also a really good descender. But I always keep on dreaming and keep on believing in myself, and I could have given up with 500 meters to go, but I kept going. So yeah, I always believe everything is possible.
To win the course twice, how does it? Where does it stand in your career?
Yeah, this one is really beautiful, I think. Yeah, together with Israel and winning Giro Rosa last week, and now this one in this way is really high on my wish list.
Very well done, thank you.
To win this one in this way, and what a way she won it. This is the top 10, 2 minutes 24, spanning first to 10th. Annemiek van Vleuten just about at the top of the tree. Heartbreak for Anna van der Breggen, who looks set to become the first woman to win it twice, pipped by her compatriot. Ashley Moorman in third, her teammate Cecily Uttrup Ludwig in fourth, Megan Guarnier making up the top five, and that was quite some spectacle. This was the moment, then it was won. It looked done and dusted, even at this minute, and then the big gear grinding began. Annemiek van Vleuten to produce one of the performances of any race, any gender, anywhere this season. I'm off for a calm down. Jonathan Edwards will be back. You'll hear from Molly Weaver and Joe Rousselshand.
De la course paye le tour avec FDJ, nouvelle édition en 2018, c'est la 5e édition de la course paye le tour avec FDJ, une épreuve inédite réservée aux meilleures cyclistes féminines du monde qui a débuté il y a tout juste 4 ans. C'était sur les Champs-Élysées, les 3 premières éditions avaient eu lieu sur les Champs-Élysées en levée de rideau de la dernière étape du Tour de France en 2014, 2015 et 2016. Et puis l'année passée, eh bien, on a innové avec la course paye le tour avec FDJ qui se déroule bien dorénavant sur l'une des étapes du Tour de France. L'année passée, l'arrivée, elle était au sommet du Col d'Izoard. Cette année, l'étape choisie, c'est Annecy le Grand Bornand avec la victoire d'Annemiek van Vleuten qui est tout sourire ici proche du podium puisqu'elle a été chercher une très belle victoire au terme de 112 km 500 de course. La représentante de l'équipe. Et on a vu également l'arrivée de UCI pour l'équipe Sunweb. Et puis on a vu également l'arrivée d'Erika Benaldi pour la formation utile. La victoire donc pour Annemiek van Vleuten de l'équipe Mitchelton-Scott, toute heureuse. On la retrouve. Qui a aperçu Annemiek van Vleuten juste derrière elle, et ça va se jouer pour quelques mètres, ça va se jouer à quelques longueurs entre les deux néerlandaises, Anna van der Breggen et Annemiek van Vleuten, qui sont maintenant à 400 mètres du but, à 400 mètres de cette ligne d'arrivée publique du Grand Bornand. On va compter sur vous pour faire du bruit, on va compter sur vous pour les encourager et pour les applaudir dans quelques instants. Voilà les meilleures cyclistes féminines du monde avec Anna van der Breggen qui a été championne olympique. C'était il y a 2 ans et c'était Il reste encore des concurrents qui vont franchir la ligne d'arrivée dans les toutes prochaines minutes et forcément, eh bien, public du Grand Bornand, on comptera sur vous pour les saluer, pour les applaudir chaleureusement, pour les accueillir chaleureusement ici sur cette ligne d'arrivée avec une étape très difficile pour elle aujourd'hui, pour l'ensemble des femmes qui se sont élancées depuis Annecy ce matin. Elles étaient 112 concurrentes au départ, 20 équipes représentées avec bien sûr les meilleures cyclistes féminines du monde. Et au final, on a vécu une super